Okay. Ah, so today's group, number 5 in the basics series, is um, is in one sense going to be about measurement and what makes our way of measuring things different. But measurement is a boring topic for most people, even though it's really an odd thing to think about that because how do you know if something's true without measuring it? Well, you can't know. Or false, or useful, or useless. Um, and so, in some sense, and to some degree, many of you will have been treating emergence as a tweak, a better version of what exists already. Um, I would guess that due to school things, Sarah, that you have had this, because I don't think that you could tell somebody, well, maybe yes, could you tell somebody what's different about this and prove it?
No, no. And I find it hard to even open up about it sometimes because I feel like it would be
Right.
judged because it's not school.
It will be judged. It's
Yeah.
not a matter of it could be, it will be. But the point is that being able to say why it's different and to what degree it's different. You know, Jesse, I would guess that you're another person who has trouble with this. Is that true? Now, really,
Yeah,
the question I'm asking is, could say somebody says, so what's the big deal about what you're doing? Could you say?
it
I'm,
would be
yeah, I'm
it
glad
would be
you
a
understand.
fuzzy, it
Right,
would be very fuzzy. Yeah. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. John, you are arguably the person who's read more of my books than I have. But if somebody asked you what makes this thing that you're doing better and different and unique than any conventional therapy, what could you say? What would it feel like?
Well, I could talk about like I guess what we focus on. Like in emergence, we focus on natural patterns. And so there's like a specific way that we measure those things that measure out with 100% certainty every time we go to measure it with tipping points.
That's impressive.
So like I would kind of probably launch into that.
That's impressive. Well said. Well said. Now, I would then ask the next question. That's really good. So don't hear any, you know, overlooking. But how would you say we measure it? How would you say that our way of measuring is unique in the world? That's the real question. Not just a different way or a tweak or a better way. How would you say that it is completely and utterly unique? And as your brain struggles with that question, recognize that's what this group is about. Right. So Maria and Sam are tasked with having an hour of being on the side of saying the things they do know about this. So imagine what the stress is on them right now.
Mm.
And I have been trying to say this partly by writing all the books, especially the science book, and it makes no difference to most people because they just simply hear it as some version of what they already know or that it's false. So now Eric on Monday morning raised a hypothetical question, which is going to be something that I hope we'll all be thinking about this um, during this time, the group, and I'm going to do the best I can to say it. Eric was saying, to ask me to imagine. Well, Eric, you want to say it?
Yeah, I had a thought experiment that if we were given or Steve was given like a bunch of money to run a clinic however he liked and teach emergence and work with a bunch of clients, how the with the only caveat being that we have to demonstrate that emergence is effective.
You
How
said
would we do that?
you said we had 2 years, and then we had to prove
Yeah,
emergence was
yeah,
effective.
yeah,
How would we do that?
correct.
Right. Okay. So now I want to ask Eric, how would you prove it? How would you prove it?
Well, what's been in the back of my mind, but I haven't gone down the funnel far enough, is that the tipping point based observations like that we make
Hmm.
could have some way of being correlated or put into a bin in some way, that it's like, okay, we did all these measurements, this is what happened, this is how it looks, right? I mean, it's
What kind of
it's
measurements?
well, that's what I'm saying, that's where it gets really complicated. So the one thing that you brought up that morning, which I don't know how you would actually measure that, is like wounds and healing.
And be clear, Eric. You don't know how you would measure that, despite there being a measure that is tipping point based, that is a natural pattern, a before and an after, two sets of patterns. It's not a measure for you. That's a really important thing for you to look at because you are indoctrinated with the fake measurement of conventional science. Fake. Fake. And the fake measurement begins with the idea that if something's true, it's going to have the same outcome every single time. That is conventional science. That's their measurement. Every single time. And the closest you can come, which is what statistics does, to every single time, well, that's the value that's placed on it for being true. Meanwhile, in the real world, nothing ever repeats the same way twice ever. So right away, there's a flaw in the fucking idea. But this is what people believe. It happened 99 out of 100 times, it not being defined here, and that makes it true. Okay. Making an observation, for instance, if I look at a candle 100 times and it's lit, and I see the candle is lit 100 times, that is not statistics. Because the 100 times doesn't matter. It only takes one time to know the candle is lit. But according to science, 100 times seeing the candle lit, 100 observations would make it more lit. More lit. Now, Vern, you're having a surprise here, but the idea that I am faced with, and Sam and Maria this morning, is the Sisyphus rolling the boulder up the hill. This is so difficult because I can say these things 1,000 times, I have, and it doesn't get in. That the measurement, the way we measure things, is the foundation of what we do. That's how we know it's true. Measurement. And yet, John couldn't have done, he did a better job than I would have done saying the thing about natural patterns and tipping points, which is true. And here I used one. Is the candle lit or not? How many observations do I have to make to know the candle is lit? One. How many does statistics say? It says if I make 1,000 and it's true, it's truer. It's more lit. Now, saying that to an ordinary person, they would dismiss it and say how much science has given us, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But the conventional scientific method is a method that is brute force. Put 1,000 monkeys in a room, give them 10 years, and all this stuff, And they will eventually stumble onto something that surprises people. Oh, look at that. And that's conventional science. It's an accident when they discover something. And for us, we up the odds of the accident happening. We can't make it happen, but we up the odds because we define things in a way that our path is narrower. For instance, with wounds, it is 100% my claim that if you see a person wince or flinch, they just relived getting startled. Notice I don't have to use the word wound. It is 100% wince or flinch. A wince and flinch never happens unless the person is reliving a startle. Never. It is a lit candle. One observation, 100%. So the basis of Eric's question would be, begin with what John said. There is a set of natural patterns for a wound, and then a wound that has begun to be emerged from, which generically gets called some healing. Does the wince or flinch ever go away? No. It becomes smaller. How do I know that? Where's my proof? Okay, I'm going fast because I want Maria has to go on vacation, and I know that she wants to get her to her part. But anything I can tell you, you'll follow, and the Etch-a-Sketch page of your mind will raise the thing and erase it within less than 2 minutes every single time. For instance, were you to get off today and somebody was to say, what makes you so sure that what you're doing is any better than anything else? And if you said, well, what John said, we measure natural patterns. And what is a natural pattern? Well, a candle being lit. It's a natural pattern. We don't make it. It's not like we don't have to do something to it. Yes, we have to light it, but we don't make the pattern. We're not controlling it. It's not in a lab removed from the world. Anywhere in the entire world that you light a candle, it's lit. Anywhere, any circumstances, anything. Atomic bomb going off, light a candle, it's lit. Doesn't matter. In the middle of a war, in the middle of COVID, light a candle, candle is lit. And how many observations do you need to make for that? One. But the thing that you then say is, and if I made 1,000 more observations, would it make the candle more lit? And that's the piece. No. And before I go to Maria, now consider that this is what the argument is against Freudian therapies, even though there are other things. The argument is that they claim things by being able to see something one time. That's why it's dismissed. That's the entire claim, that it is useless. It's not evidence-based. And what does evidence-based mean? 1,000 observations of the candle being lit makes the candle more lit. That's what evidence-based means. It's total, utter bullshit. Bullshit. The observations are good, but the interpretation that it's more lit is absurd. Anyway, so Maria, with that, you're on.
I'm so overwhelmed right now. I can't believe how much I learned in this, I don't know, 10, 15-minute period right now, and how much I relived. And I'm like, this is, I've always had this prove what you see injury, like before emergence, before any of this stuff. And to be able to see a lot of things, but not, and then the personality limitations of my precision with words, then to be able to actually fucking communicate what I see. I mean, I just feel like roadblocks everywhere. And the amount that I'm reliving right now, it's surprising me. Yeah, my heart is racing, my breath is short.
Mhm.
It's like
Mm.
there's a feeling of that it's all that the minds are already not open. Who would watch this? Not people here, but like the minds are already not open. Like it's all closed already. And how the fuck do I even like, you know, um, yeah. So I think right now is just like the pure pain of knowing emergence and not being able to,
That's right.
um, yeah.
Let me add before you start one more thing, because this is important. What I offered was this idea of 1,000 measurements of a lit candle don't make it more true.
Mm,
I've never said that.
mm,
But the other side of it is, which is equally important, um, has to do with the idea of being on time. We say the phrase all the time. We try to be on time. But according to the great me, there is no way to be on time. You can either be early or late. This is not a difficult thing to prove. You could begin with people's watches or clocks or whatever aren't exactly the same. So whose time are you on time with? And that's a piece of the problem. But the real problem is a very simple one. You can't actually be on a tipping point. You cannot say, I don't care how long, at what moment was the candle lit. You can have a video thing with 1,000 frames a second, so it's really a very fine measure. And you're not, all you're going to be able to do is say, okay, in this frame it's not lit, in this frame it's lit. But frames don't happen in the same moment. Try and take this in. Think of a movie film where a frame is one snapshot, really, and they're going quickly in front of a light. Here's the frame where the candle is not lit. The next frame is the candle that it's lit. Does it take any time for the film to move from here to here? I don't care if it's 10,000 frames a second. Does it take any time to move from here to here? We can never land exactly on a tipping point. We can't measure that way. We can only measure before or after. We can only measure the before healing, winter flinch, after pleasant surprise. One frame, winter flinch, next frame, pleasant surprise. It takes time to move from there to there. Somebody could say, but in theory, isn't there a exact point between the frames? Sure there is. Try and measure it. The point isn't does it exist. The point is can we ever measure it? No, we can't. We can't. There was an experiment in France many years ago about trying to see the point at which water boils to determine the exact point. And they had some tiny little thing with water inside it, and they'd boil it and they'd watch it, and they spent like $1 million and they could never do it. Why? Because boiling water is fractal. It isn't like a all or nothing. Anyway, so that idea that we cannot ever measure a tipping point, we can only measure before or after. We can know it has not or has tipped. That's important because conventional science wants the exact thing. They claim they get it. 1,000 times seeing the candle is lit means the candle's more lit. Anyway, those are the two pieces. Maria?
Yeah, I'm even just trying to measure for blankness right now in people's eyes. I know what I can see. How the fuck do I tell someone that I can see? Like Jesse's not blank right now. He tipped to not blank. I see it. How the fuck do like it's just like it's 100% certain inside of me. It's all the things. It's like I see the natural pattern. Like Vern was just blank. Now she just moved. There's something where I'm like, how the fuck do I communicate that into words? Like one of the most primary natural patterns in emergence. How the fuck? It's so yeah, I'm watching the difficulty and these are all people that know emergence.
So look, Maria, 20 minutes roughly. This is 20 minutes. I just said the entire proof for our system. That's what I just said. The entire proof that emergence is different than any other system. Period. The entire proof in 20 minutes. And none of you, even you, Maria, and you're about to teach, even you have the thing of, but how do I say it? Well, I just said it. That's the point. I
Yeah,
just
I'm
said it.
trying, yeah, I'm trying to go into like the yeah, I'm watching that. I'm trying to go into their language outside of this group, the way that someone else would need to hear it or process it for it to be true to them, for it to be proved to them.
And that's the piece we can't be. How can we do it when we
Yes,
don't
yes,
even
seeing that
believe that
limitation
the
is
thing is,
something, yeah,
it's not
yeah.
true?
I think some of you know that we've been building a fence. And this has been one of the most spiritually, it has broken me in so many ways. And one thing that it broke was my, really probably the first or second, or maybe it was the third one that we did on perfectionism and theory to be perfect. And I even realized that level, something being level, I didn't realize the pattern, Steve, until after we had had 5 sections up, where I'm like, why the fuck is each piece of wood in and of itself saying it's level? Each piece of wood is level. So the sections are like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they have these horizontal planks that go across them. Each time we're putting a horizontal plank, it's saying it's level. After the second one is put up, I'm like, why the fuck do they look like they're going like this together? What the fuck is this? And after 4 of them, I'm like, these pieces of wood are not perfect. They are bowed, they are warped, they are this. So on this individual piece of wood, this thing is level. But then it tips to not being level once they're all together. Like they're not, they kind of like do this in a way. And it's been, does anybody know what plumb means? Clarence, you just look so
Do it.
excited.
Well, I'm from the South, so that's like, is that like a way to, plumb is like even, right? Like
Yeah,
it's like level.
PLUMB, I think.
Is
So there's level that's like a horizontal level, and then there's a vertical level, which is kind of like
Oh,
straight. And
okay. I thought it was like a Southern word. Maybe I'm crazy.
I don't know.
I just want to say something. I love watching Steve's face about precision when I just watch Steve's face.
Is it the same
I love Steve.
being flush? Is plumb the same as being flush to something?
So in carpentry, if you want to know a horizontal up and down, straight up and down, you take a plumb bob, which is like a big punk of metal with a point on it. You tie it to a string, you hold the string, and the plumb bob, because of gravity, goes straight down. So a plumb line is a line that shows you whether it's straight up and down.
I'm realizing the theories of the topics are just equally difficult to talk about. It's not like this practicality of this fence is making this any easier.
But Maria, now everybody take in what's happening to Maria, because this is Maria. She's one of the teachers. She's having a hard time finding the words. Why? Because conventional science is based on a thing that can be true only in theory. In theory, there is a tipping point that could be measured for every natural pattern. But in the real world, we can never exactly land on the tipping point. It is a function of all natural things to tip, one way or the other. Period. That's the way it is. There is no exact tipping point because the tipping point itself moves.
Yeah, Steve, I remember at one point um, feeling a reprieve in a sense when I wouldn't have said it the way you just said it right now, but when I had that about the fence planks, that it's going to tip one way or the other, and I can't land in this place that's this like, I don't know. It was like literally like a spiritual enlightenment. And I was not letting go, but I don't know, seeing that the tipping is natural and it felt so, it almost went to layer 10 for me to see that it's natural. I don't know how else to explain it.
That's smart.
I asked
Sarah,
a question. So, Steve, you just said how tipping points can vary, like they're never the
The the
exact.
li- the okay. If we could actually even measure a tipping point, and then what I'm saying is, okay, let me add something in. I'm going to answer your question. Um, I think late 1700, 1600s, early 1700s, two different people, 100 miles apart in Europe, big distance at the time, invented calculus. Everybody knows the word, but you know, it's an advanced mathematics. Well, why is it advanced? It's advanced because calculus is measuring natural things, natural patterns, calculus. And how does it do that? Like how did Newton at that point roughly measure the distance to the moon from the Earth? How could he do that without getting out there and putting a string or a ruler or whatever, right? How could he do that? So calculus starts with something called limits. So I know that the moon is not 1 inch from the Earth. I know that the moon is not in an infinite amount of distance from the Earth. I know that somewhere in the middle there is the answer. Now, can you see between, you know, infinitely small and infinitely large that this is a pair of natural opposites for everything? This is what calculus measures. Calculus measures tipping points. And what it does is it bookends each side. I know it's bigger than this, I know it's smaller than this, and it keeps making observations until the points move together in such a way that you have a usable measure. Usable. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Calculus doesn't get the exact answer. Calculus gets an approximate answer based on moving the tipping points on the line closer and closer to each other. That's what calculus is. Well, guess what? Every conversation that we have in this group is calculus. Well, how? Well, how? Because somebody starts with, okay, I don't know what a plumb bob is, or plumb line, right? Clancy at least ventures a guess, right? Not criticizing any of you, but she's a guess, right? And it has some aspects of the thing in there. It's a measurement. But on the other side, it's far away from what it actually is. So what it actually is, and what Clancy thinks it is a calculus. And then I try, Maria tries, and so on, to move one or the other bookends so that Clancy gets a clearer understanding of what the plumb line is. Does she ever exactly get it so precisely that it's like we measure like a candle being lit? No, absolutely not. Not possible. But we can move the bookends so that Clancy gets a closer and closer idea of what the plumb line is. What we're trying to do today is much more difficult. We're trying to discuss what is measurement. What is the actual nature of measurement?
Can I ask a question about Maria, like your fence and how like the first plank was even and then you put in like another section and then it becomes uneven. Is that
It's
the way?
uneven relative. So I want you to see a board, Sarah.
Yeah,
No, no, pause. No,
I do.
not yeah. You do not know what I'm going to say.
No, I'm
Stop.
picturing. Yes, I'm picturing.
No, but you don't know what I'm going to say.
Okay.
So you can't understand because you leave the discussion. Because you get your own discussion side thing going on. Maria has a plank. I'm saying something based on what she said. Not exactly. She has a long plank, right? Let's say that the plank is 8 feet long. And it's going to get nailed to posts, which hopefully are plumb. So she has this thing. Now, is the board perfect? No. Will there ever be a board that's ever cut that's perfect? No. Never. Close, but never. So she takes the level, which is like a short, whatever, 3 feet, not 8 feet, 3 feet, and depending on where she puts the level, if the thing is bowed up slightly, the level is going to land like this or this. It's not going to be flat. Can you picture that?
Yes.
All right, so that's not going to work on this. If I go to measure the top of this thing, and if it's bowed, then the level is going to tip like this or this. Now, put the next board on there. And the next board is not necessarily going to be bowed up or down, or it changes. It's not even the bows. So depending on where you put the level, the actual level changes.
I guess my question was the more sections of fence she would add, the new tipping point. Like, would there be a new tipping point? Because initially fence one was even, right? And then section two adds, and now it's not
And I'm
even.
saying she's saying something to you about adding boards on a fence. She's not
Yeah.
saying just adding sections. She's saying something that's simpler. Yes, adding sections, but you are missing the point that even in one single section, getting the boards to be level, what Maria did and Jean was that they didn't know something. She learned it. Okay, do you know I gave her a tool that accounts for that? But you didn't know, Maria.
Well,
That's
it can't, that, are you
that,
talking about the 3 axis one with the green thing?
yeah, the laser light
Yeah.
is what you do to measure it, and then what you do is then you use the measure multiple points on the posts, and you push it down or up.
Yeah. So can I show something, Steve? I just sent the request to share it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's as straight as I can get right now. Let's say that's a straight board.
Yeah,
Some of them do this.
yeah.
I'm exaggerating it a little bit.
Nope, you're doing it perfectly.
So then there's a post here. So Sarah, can you see that this and then there's space in between them, right? So then the whole thing, so all of these are not perfectly equal dimensions either.
Yeah.
So a 1 inch wide board can really be 5 3/4. It can really be 5.5. So the spacing now changes also. So now
Yeah.
let's say the next board is straight and they're all so can you see it already?
I was picturing more like that one section was solid, so that was even. It's hard to describe what I was picturing without taking too much time. But yeah, I wasn't picturing vertical. I was picturing more. No, I wasn't picturing horizontal. I was picturing more vertical, like moving from right to left, not up and down. And so I was wondering, it was almost like the more pieces of the fencing you would add,
Okay,
the
I
more.
gotta stop you, Sarah, because do you realize how far we are from proving emergence is true? We're now into a discussion of how to make a fence.
All I was trying to say was the
No,
more.
Sarah, I want you to see what you did. Because you trying to prove to anybody what this is, if you do what you just did, you guarantee no one will understand anything. You made it about the fence. You expanded it beyond this to the point where you want to learn how to do a fence or how to measure a fence.
That's not what I was trying to do.
Well, but are you trying to measure emergence?
I was trying to say that the more pieces of wood and the more information you gain, the more that you have to readjust your thinking because it alters the past.
Can anybody relate that to emergence?
One of the things that I was trying to show with it is, a while ago, Steve, you mentioned how it's a relational theory,
Yes.
that this to this to this. And the measurement of level started to change when the natural fractals of the wood were there for me. So the levels, the measurement, the point of level started to change when the actual natural wood was there. It wasn't something that was like, okay, Maria is mind first and she's always in her mind. Or Clancy is a 3 and she's always in a me state, or something where it's like you're trying to define and limit someone to this particular, I don't even know what, like sadness, if we define sadness and depression in the DSM. Okay, so if we just say it's a 2-week standard of blah, 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 but if you put it in relation to something else, it's like the whole thing changed. The point of it is that the measurement changes for me. So
now think about why. You're making a point, Sarah's expanding on the point, but think about why this discussion, this one, moves it completely away from what we do. You're saying in sense that the word level has a meaning. And then you're saying that, but
yeah,
in the real world, there's no such thing as level. In relationship to other things, we can come closer. It's a calculus. This board bends this way, this board bends this way. If I nail the ends of it, I can actually push the thing so that it comes closer to level, but it's never going to be level.
yeah,
Never. Okay. But you see, the difficulty here is taking something that's not a natural tipping point. It's not a natural tipping point. We are changing something. We're changing the nature of the board by bending it. Right. What we're talking about in emergence is not the fence. And this is important. You've made a point
yeah,
about
of course,
in the
yeah,
natural world,
yeah,
but what we can measure are only things which are natural pairs of perfect opposites. There's nothing else we attempt to measure. Okay, so yes. And this is a difficult thing because knowing what we can't measure is as important or maybe more
yeah,
important
yeah,
than knowing what we can.
yeah.
And so, yeah. So to talk about what could be in a measurement that can't be tipped is to take the entire discussion outside of what this is and guarantee that this now lands it into conventional science, which would do all manner of things to make the boards on the fence straight. That's not natural. We don't
Yeah,
change.
this is so helpful for me because even in seeing one of my hardest things is seeing the limitation of the proof of something. So to even see like what you're even trying to prove or not prove, I guess. It's really helpful because it puts when I was looking at the etymology of definition,
Yeah,
one of the things that came from was finir or something, and like in Creole,
finite.
finir is like
Yeah.
end, like to put
End.
an
The
end,
end in Latin.
to
Yeah.
put a limit. And I don't know, I was like, oh, I can see the helpful ways and I can see the harmful ways of putting a limit on something. But to me, what is happening right now is so helpful because it's like to what end is there something where you try to, whatever someone's trying to bring up or bring across about proving it or not, to what end do you say you can do it in this and you can't do it in that?
Okay. And this is the point that is frustrating about what Sarah said, which is that Sarah and you are both talking about a measurement that's not tipping point based.
Yeah.
And so we can't, those are things that, in as far as how emergence measures things, we can't measure them.
Yeah. And I think the thing that was coming up for me was how I realized that I can't get that it is a tipping
That's
point,
right.
that I
Yeah.
can't get what the fuck I'm looking for. You know, I can't, I'm trying to get it and trying to get it and trying to get it and
But you
realizing
won't
that,
let it go. And Sarah, that's what I had to
yes,
interrupt. You won't let it go. And I'm saying you can't get that. That emergence is saying something that's so important about what you can't measure.
yes, yes.
We can't, and so conventional science attempts to create a way to measure things that really aren't measurable. Watch. Okay, Vern, you're the director of a outpatient clinic. You have to use evidence-based methods, which is, whatever, according to the great me, less useful than toilet paper. And um, so give me an evidence-based measure that you are required to use.
Steve, we don't do it that way, Steve.
You don't.
No, well, I
You
mean,
don't. Wait, but you have to have insurance things, so therefore you
okay.
must have to have some evidence-based measures for those motherfuckers. So
So what
I'm
we,
not saying you believe it. I didn't say
right,
that.
right.
Okay.
So the way we do it is we design a group that we want to do,
Okay.
and then we say what evidence base is this, as opposed to we're going to do this evidence based modality because we want to use all kinds of things. We want to.
Okay. I'm stopping you because this is so complicated and to stray beyond, I realized with Sarah that it's so easy to stray into the stuff that you can't measure. Okay. So now you're saying you design a group um, to do all kinds of things. This is like Maria's fence requires all manner of adjustments and
Oh
movements
God.
and knowledge, and it's very similar to this, right? But I'm going to claim there is nothing. You hear that? Nothing that you're measuring there's nothing. Now, this is a bold claim. I didn't say you're not helping, so
Oh, I
please
know
don't
that.
hear that. But
Yeah,
there is nothing that you're measuring.
you're right.
Nothing.
You're
That
right.
whatever it is, like say somebody stays sober for a year, is that a measurement? No.
Mm,
No, that's like saying this board on the fence isn't bowed up, it's bowed down.
mm-hmm.
Let's go into that. What does it mean to say somebody's sober, right? So the guy hasn't had a drink or drug in a year, but he's like, gambling like a motherfucker and smoking cigarettes and can't keep a job and cheating on his wife. Right. Is that sober? Okay. So then in AA they say that's not sober behavior. Okay. Well, what is, what isn't? Like immediately a word like sober is meaningless in some sense. Other than giving a gist, a general idea, language, it's not a measure of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And please hear that phrase, that's the point. It
Mm-hmm.
is not a measure of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Zero measurement. Zero. Right? So, Eric, you have to do evidence-based measures in your work, right? Even have to teach this shit, I imagine, right? Give me an evidence-based measurement that's real.
That's a good question. I mean, I'm having trouble thinking like being sober is not a measurement, to be honest with you.
Give me the criteria by which you determine it.
Abstinence from mood altering substances.
Right. Here's what you're saying. And that's a single point. And emergence claims that a single point is a point in the air relative to nothing else. That's not a
Hmm.
measure. That's conventional science saying dictionary measure. Really? What does that mean, Eric? They've been abstinent. What does that mean? Does it mean they've had no urges? Does it mean that they haven't eaten food in a way that's compulsive? What does it mean?
No, but my struggle with that statement, Steve, is that it doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't
Like
mean
to
that.
say, I know, but to say it doesn't
Okay,
mean
wait,
anything.
wait, wait. But I'm saying to you, okay, this is good. You're on to something important. Right. I'm saying it doesn't say anything. You're saying it does. Right. I am saying that Maria trying to make the boards on her fence level is doesn't say anything because it's not something that you can actually do. It's not a definable thing. She looked up definite. If you can't define something, you can't measure it. And so that's something to take in mind. Is there any point to saying somebody's sober? Yes, there is. But is it a measurement? No, it is not. That's
Okay,
me.
so you're not saying it's meaningless. You're saying it's not a measurement.
It's not a measurement. It can't even be known in a measurable way.
Yeah,
All it
like
is,
it's
yes, go
like
ahead.
if I ran a treatment center and 1,000 people came through and 1,000 people didn't use alcohol after they left, that's meaningful as shit. Everyone would go to my treatment center. But if you want to be really technical, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a measurement of anything.
No,
It's
it's not.
just, but it is but it is meaningful if 1,000 people don't use alcohol that come to my treatment center.
But you see, the thing that you just said, Sam, it's meaningful, but it isn't a measurement. Do you know the meaning of measurement for us is the proof that we have something? And without the measurement, we can't prove anything other than that it's in some way useful just as much as something else, which is not true. It's not
Yeah,
true.
but they're definitely separate because people go to therapy with me, and 95% of them I don't teach emergence. And it's super meaningful to them, but they're not measuring anything that's happening. But it's still really meaningful.
But we're talking about out in the world and proving that this saying to somebody what we do is different.
Oh yeah, no, I know that. I'm just separating the meaning of versus the just the idea of a measurement, specifically that word and its meaning in this context.
But I'm claiming that there is no emergence in the world without measurement. None. That's what makes it different. It can be measured in a way that the outcome is 100% knowable, the outcome after the measurement. But how can it be measured? Only with a pair of natural opposites. It can't be measured with a single point. Sober uh, can't be measured. Level can't be measured. Agreeable.
It's interesting, Steve, because I'm thinking about this is from the math world for a second. They have this, it's kind of a pair of opposites. I'm not 100%. Specificity and generalizability. And whenever you're doing something like a study or trying to measure psychological stuff, right? You have to figure out where in the line you're going to land. Because if you're too specific, you can't generalize. And if you're too general, then you're not saying anything.
Watch this,
So,
Eric. Eric, watch
mhm,
this.
mhm.
Very good. What happens when you measure the candle lit or not lit? It's both specific and general at the same time. It supersedes those things by a million points. You are raising something perfect. Perfect, Eric. That is a perfect example of bullshit. Even though logically it's accurate, what you said is logically understandable. But in the real world, does it do anything? It's bullshit. It does zero. Why? Why? Because it's not an exact measurement. And you would take issue with me saying it does nothing. So would Sam. I am saying, based on the idea that the science that's used is for monkeys, not people, it's not intelligent. It's 500 years of bullshit that's better than saying I wave a bone over something and that's why it changes. Okay, it's an improvement over that. But it's not an exact measure. A candle being lit is an exact measure It's both specific and general. It is everything. It's a full, total, entire, exact scientific measurement. A candle is lit. What does it mean to say more specificity, more generalization about a lit candle? It means nothing. It's meaningless. Now, this is the difficulty because what you said, Eric, is logically understandable. It's accessible. It makes people believe that they can do more than they can do. And it does apply to man-made things. Every man-made measure, like the idea of sobriety, every man-made measure, I don't know why not woman-made measure, but every man-made measure is vague. It can be true in theory, but it's not an actual measurement in the real world other than a very vague, nebulous thing. What does it mean? If you can show me how a candle flame is only specific or only general, I'll shut the fuck up. This is done. And I don't mean it to hurt you, Eric. I'm not criticizing you as a person. As all of you can see, this is so painful for me. The pain of this is I could sob right now. The pain of not having this be something that you all see. I care about you all. I know that this is the proof for that what we do is unique. That it uses its own science and math. But those words are meaningless if you can't prove it. And so what Eric just brought up, what Sarah was bringing up, these are what normal people do with measurement and proof of something being true.
Yeah, I guess, Steve, the really hard part for me is not that it's true or that I believe it's true, but that it feels like because it's not specific and generalizable like a candle flame, that it's valueless.
Okay.
That there's no value in
Okay.
the sobriety
Eh,
measure
Okay.
based on it not being fractal.
And Sam leaped on that correctly, like me. But what I was saying is, when it comes to proving emergence is true, it's valueless. Okay, look, if you eat food and it's contaminated with arsenic, people in India in some particular incident had this happen, and you then realize that you have a way to make the food have less arsenic in it. Is an improvement? Yes. Is that what you want? Not according to me. In other words, improvement has a value. It does. But in the case of the arsenic, the people who would just get poisoned at a slower rate, they'd still be poisoned. So, Eric, I'm not saying what you do is meaningless. This entire group is about proving that emergence is unique, different, and what makes it unique and different. That's what the group is about. It's not about saying that having less arsenic has no value. That's ridiculous. But the only things we can measure and the only things that we use as proof of what we do, because it's only things we focus on, are whether a candle is lit or not. Wincing and flinching, there's no specificity or generalization. Wincing or flinching. It either happens or it doesn't. Pleasant surprise when you expect pain. There's no generalization or specificity. It either happens or it doesn't. And that's a pair of opposites. Either, if you have an injury, either you're going to wince or flinch or you're going to have pleasant surprise. These are observable, measurable qualities in a human being, unlike asking somebody, well, how depressed are you? when it has no meaning. Is it helpful to get a person to say they're depressed? Sure. Or is it helpful to get somebody to say I'm an addict? Absolutely. But those aren't attempting to prove that a system is true. I'm sorry, Maria, for doing this. I'm sorry.
What are you sorry about, Steve? This is
Well, I'm
like,
sorry for taking up so much of your time.
what was I gonna do? This is like, it's like, this is so, like I was saying, this is so hard and so helpful because it's like just sussing it out in such a real world way where it's like applying, you know, yeah, I was thinking about my girls that they could identify a square, but could they tell you why?
That's right.
They could,
That's
like, fuck yeah,
perfect.
that's a square.
That's right.
But could they say, you know, and this is like, this is a lot of what I feel like often where I can identify the shit out of it. But can I tell you, but can I explain it to you? Can I, you know, especially someone who's super closed-minded or super on the other side, you know, I have a ton of clients that are open-minded and I feel more free about it. But yeah, this is similar to I think the last case I presented, like knowing the limits. It's something I so often don't. I have such a blind spot on limits. I think, you know, internal locus of control. You know, I'm just like I have all of this like assertiveness, like it can be done. And knowing this limitation is yeah, it's my brain is just
So think about what I did in the beginning. I did the candle flame and then I did being on time. One is an example of a thing you can measure with precision. Precision beyond any kind of theory. It's literally perfect.
yeah.
It's specific and general at the same time. Thank you, Eric, for bringing that up. Because that's taking the calculus, moving the bookends to the point where they're touching a lit candle. But then it's important to see the other side. I would argue that in many ways it's even more important to see the other side, which is the can't be on time.
Hmm.
That there is no way. Well,
Hmm.
why? Okay, let's take what we do in therapy. Okay? When I was away, had this discussion and had this realization about the idea of the word resolve people's issues. Resolve mean finish, heal, done, complete, resolve. And I have known for years that you can't resolve shit. All it does is change for the better, change. And so I realized that conventional therapy, therapists, and clients especially expect therapists to resolve their issues. The suffering is gone. And I realized no. The best we can do, and Emergence does this really well, is evolve their issues. Evolve. For instance, Jesse has a mother and father who are ones. Okay. Jesse, before you knew that they were ones, were you suffering? Would you say you were suffering?
Yes.
Right. And now you can see that I'm asking a question and you answered it with a small smile about this realization. Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Now, are you still suffering after you know they're ones? Do you still suffer?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. And I would argue, which is not for today, that your amount of suffering is the same. The
Mm,
quality of your suffering is evolved.
mm,
That you knowing that both your parents are ones hurts like hell,
mhm,
but you then can understand why they don't know you're alive and not blame.
mm,
It removes blame, but by removing blame, you feel the pure need, you feel the layer 7 pain more.
yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
safe. It just is.
Yeah, and something coming to me from our conversation today is like how much pain I've had to try and prove to them. Like all the proving in this conversation is just
Yes, yes.
and that's changed. That's evolved. I'm not trying to prove to them they're hurting me or they haven't seen me or I used to go so crazy with that. Yeah. I still can. Yeah, but
Yeah. So in the case of what we're talking about one, proving that emergence is true doesn't mean every single thing gets proven.
yeah. Yeah.
We're beginning and saying, here's what we use to measure, and these measurements are our evidence. These measurements, and the measurements in conventional science are large numbers of things, and if it comes out the same. Well,
Mm,
how many large numbers of candles lit do you need to see to the candle to know the candle is lit? One. But people don't see that because, like children, when they think at some age that a nickel is worth more than a dime because the nickel is bigger, science still believes the nickel is worth more than a dime. The conventional science. So now think of the hugeness of what I'm trying to get across today. That we use a different math and a different science. Saying it doesn't have much meaning at all,
mm,
unless you can prove that we use a different math and a different science. I'm not trying to prove the different science. I'm trying to just simply prove the measurement, the math. Eric,
I had this realization about why I feel like I've gotten angry so often, whether it's like with times I've gotten mad at you over the years, or I got a little mad with Maria the other day when we were meeting. That and I don't know if it's precision, but like I often go, especially as a therapist, into these like gray spaces where I don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but I'm just gonna sit with them in it. And there's a lot of like, you know, generalizability going on. Let's call it generalizability going on within me where I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be around this shit. And then in emergence, because the measurement is specific and generalizable, right? And I'm throwing some stuff at you that's not specific and maybe a little generalized, right? I want you to just come over to my side and hang out in the generalized measurement.
mm.
And it's not working, right? Like I'm getting frustrated. Like Sarah's getting frustrated
that's correct.
because she wants you to just hang out on the fucking dock with you or the deck with you and build the fucking deck out there.
That's correct. Can you imagine, Eric, the pain I'm in this morning? The
Not
pain.
really. No.
I could sob that I have discovered and can talk about and say these things that prove that this is different and unique, math wise and science wise, and still have some of the most open minded people who really care about me as a person not get it. And be hurt by the thing I'm saying. Like what you just said, Eric. That's so accurate. That's so accurate. That's like, I don't know. I don't know a good example of trying to get me to be something I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. Like I was changed. This thing that happened to me in 1996 changed me. And it was 11 years. It wasn't like,
Mhm.
11 years of monthly seminars. It was 11 years of every day. And I have this moment where I go, oh God, the way that they think that they know things isn't accurate.
Mm. This is a good segue for me. I'm gonna be honest.
Good.
This is kind
Good.
of an
Go, Sam.
insane, incredible, I couldn't be better segue for me.
Excellent.
Because all I was going to talk about, which is just got brought up like 20 minutes ago, is yeah, just about that. It's more for what I wrote was what can and can't be measured. That's all I wrote. That's the most important for me, and I think one difference in a group of people, especially this group of people, or I'll just use myself. If I'm in my practice and somebody wants to measure something, like a client, I have a whole I have learned for so many years about what can and can't be measured, and I have a process for determining if something can and can't be measured. Like probably 8 or 9 years ago, Steve had us literally stand in front of a boiling pot of water and try to predict where the first bubble would come from. Like we
Mhm.
literally all did that.
Mhm.
And so like, that's like doing things like that are just life changing in terms of how I measure things. Because there's a piece that I could really measure there. Like if I put the pot on the water, if I put it on the stove and the burner is on, it will boil. So that part you can measure. As long as the pieces are working, you can measure it will boil. But then where the first bubble's coming from, you absolutely cannot know where it's coming from. And I can see Jesse's face that he remembers this shit.
Yeah.
And but I sit with clients all the time and they don't have a deep understanding of what can and can't be measured. And even in this group, there's the speed at which each of us determines if something can't be measured is totally different. A lot of us have to go through a whole thing to really let go of something, the possibility of it being measured. So what I'm going to do is do an experiment with all of us right now. And Steve is one that might not be able to do it because the speed at which he realized something can't be measured, he is alone. He's like, if there was a race, he'd be the first to the finish line. So then he's waiting there for everyone else to realize it can't be measured. But everyone's process is so different. And I am story. So I just see that. I see that like Steve's already knows it can't be measured immediately based on a really extensive process that isn't visible. It's visible to me because I have it. But, anyway, so, okay, this is what I want you to measure. Try your damnedest. Who loves emergence the most in this group? Let's try to measure who loves it the most in this group. Sarah, you look like you're ready to measure. You look ready to measure, girl.
Well, I was gonna say John, because he obviously read all the books, but that was just like my immediate.
But
And then
that's good. No, but Sarah, this is what I want. Like, I want some of that to get aired out. I want people to actually expose what their minds are like, because I have a piece of that mind too that never goes away. I'm too indoctrinated for it ever to be gone. It's never
Mhm.
going to be gone. So that's good, Sarah. So take apart your measurement. Try to, what do you, okay, so John, and what is the basis of your evidence or proof?
he has read all of the books. All of
Okay.
the books.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Anyone go ahead, Clance.
I feel like you can't measure it because this would be a single point, right? So I would measure it by like someone smiling, but then you're like, but that's just one moment. Like I can't measure like all the love they have for it, you know?
Okay,
Yeah, and it's like, how the fuck do you measure
Pause,
love?
sorry, wait, stop,
pause,
stop. Don't, no,
pause,
but
pause, pause, pause,
Steve and
pause,
Maria, I want
pause,
you to really
wait,
not. Okay.
wait, pause. Clancy is a perfect example of she's specific and can't generalize the thing she said. That's what she's saying. Can you see? She can measure a moment. That's specific. That's a fact. But then when it
Eh,
comes to generalizing it, can't.
Wait,
Sorry.
wait.
Go ahead.
No, no. And Eric, wait. Because, but this is the one thing that I see happening when there's different things is like Sarah says her measurement, and it is a linear thing. And then it's so easy for someone that has the different thing to come in and just quickly, but then it's not getting flushed all the way out in some sense. And so I'm trying to let it go a little bit, if that makes sense. And it's so fast that it gets killed so fast. And I know other people. It's easy. Like even probably Sarah could take it apart herself
Yeah.
and say this is fugazi because of XYZ. But I think what I'm pointing to is just how indoctrinated we all are. To a large extent, minus Steve for the most part, although he could understand the indoctrination,
Mhm.
and Maria probably is pretty gone. Um, and yeah, so that piece. Bub, what is that face?
Nothing. I'm just nothing. Don't interpret me.
Okay. Who else has a measurement? Who loves emergence the most? Jesse? I got it, Eric. I forgot. I'll go back to you.
Who loves emergence?
In this group that's present.
It's fucking with me, man.
But do you have a fucking answer? Is your mind telling you you have a fucking answer?
I haven't had an answer come to me. My only thought was like the closer I've gotten to emergence, the more I've also hated emergence. So like I feel like I've had the love more from more pain that I've had with
See,
emergence.
now you're fucking with shit because you've done such a good emergence thing that now you're introducing hate. You're already fucking up the thing because once you bring hate in, if you do hate and love, it becomes, I'm not sure if it's measurable, but it's more measurable than it was.
Huh.
If I just
That's
do the love, it's in some ways your mind is naturally like rejecting the singleness of love without hate.
Yeah, and I remember we've talked about this in basics where like when I was in the following with emergence in my first few years, I mean it was perfect. Everything was perfect about it. Retreat was Christmas morning. I mean everything was just fucking perfect. But I feel so much closer to it now,
Yeah.
not being in that. Yeah. So that's an interesting question, man.
Yes, very good.
Can I also
Very
say
good. Yes,
Jesse's
you can. Oh
decision
no,
to
wait, pause. I gotta go to Eric though,
oh
because
yeah,
I've
yeah.
dusted him like 3 times. Go ahead, Eric.
The answer, Steve.
Can I
Okay, good. So
respond?
you
Can I respond?
yes, you can.
Eric, this morning, and this is sincere, it's not just to be oppositional. This morning, I don't love it at all. I
Mm,
feel trapped in knowing.
mm,
I
But
feel
the
crushed.
I
Crushed.
agree with you, Steve, and that's
mm,
very visible to me. Your pain is so clear. But it's interesting because if you go with what Jesse introduced, you could say you hate it the most, therefore you might love it the most. Do you if you fucking hate it the most this morning, I would argue.
That's
That's
that,
my fake measurement.
that's an interesting thing. So,
mm.
Yeah, the fake measurements are so painful. They like my
okay,
stomach is turning.
Good. That's what I'm
let me put this
wanting to
up.
do.
Let me put this up. So this is what an example of what just happened. You can measure something doesn't have anything to do with the interpretation. If you're trying to measure and interpret, you lose. You
Mm.
can't do that at the same time.
And Maria, in some sense, that's sort of the feeling I'm looking to create, the one you just
Yeah,
had.
it's like, yeah, my stomach is like,
But it's like that's the pieces, and I have a theory that it's about how quickly you're able to see if something's measurable. But other people are not going that fast, and they need it to be slower and have to flush out some of their shit. At least that's what it was like for me. I needed to actually stand in front of the boiling pot of water,
Mm.
you know, even though somebody could have told me that idea and it would have like I would have intellectually accepted it, but the deeper shit inside about keep on logicking it would have just kept going and just separately. And I see that with Sarah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's painful because I don't see it.
That's
Yes.
right. That's
Yes.
exactly right.
Sarah, that's that, and you right
Yes.
now are having the same pain as I am on the other
On
side.
the other
Nothing.
side, exactly.
I am pained by seeing it.
Exactly.
You're pained by not seeing it. And right now, you and I, we're on the opposite sides of that point. But look at the honesty. We're not saying hate or love or whatever,
No,
right? We're just two human beings right now suffering badly for this
correct.
exact thing of being on one side or the other. So the truth is, Sarah, very clearly, you know right now you don't know. It's the lit candle. You know. Nobody has to say, well, you might know pieces or there's some use to what you know or no, because the thing that's being said is you don't know right now this thing. And I do know. And I do know that you don't know. And fucking pain is horrible. It's horrible. It's not about me being right. I don't give a shit about that. I don't, right doesn't even apply. I have a clear and I don't know, certain. I feel pretty certain that there's something beyond all of this. That there's something beyond this. that this makes this just seem like insignificantly small. But when you compare it to what's not known in regular measurements and proofs and what is true and what system is the best to help people, right? When you look at that, this is a great improvement over conventional science, which was a great improvement over, you know,
No.
spiritual woo-woo shit, right? It's an improvement. It's not the done. There's no done. But right now, all that really matters is that difference between you, Sarah, and me right now. That is the whole point of this group. And then if it's you trying so hard to do this, what happens when it's like an arrogant, closed-minded person and you're trying to get them to see some of this?
Yeah, and this is one of those things that I feel like I actually feel more at peace with this topic than I ever had because I have so many measurements about whether I should even speak to somebody about this. And I have limits beyond limits with this shit. You know, this is the context for me to speak like this. And that's why I appreciate this setting so much because I have the least limits here. I have no limits about emergence in this setting, really. I don't,
Mm.
you know. And yeah, yeah. Vern, what happened to you when I said who loves emergence the most? Did your mind choose somebody? And if so, how?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I thought about John, um, just because I've seen the progression of when he didn't know emergence to when he does know emergence,
Mm.
and also for
It's a
me,
tipping point.
he in a there's a simplicity of how he can explain it to me, and there's something intimate about that. I don't know.
It's so interesting. I'm glad you're saying that because it's kind of playing back into circling back to some of the
Yeah, I'm
other.
so triggered. I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. I'm going to vacation. I gotta get the fuck out of this. This is hurting too much. I can't do this.
And I'm wondering if that's how the people on the other side feel when we're doing our part, when we're
Oh,
saying our
oh
worldview.
yes.
Is it
Oh
just the same
yes.
thing you're feeling? Like
Oh yes.
Steve and Sarah's pairs of opposites is so tangible to me. And I really felt like the first hour was about your and Steve's and mine suffering, our suffering with this, and everybody. But and then the opposite, and I really still have a Sarah in me enough where I can, I'm going to be perfectly frank. I had two pieces. One where I laughed at myself. I asked the question, who loves it the most? And I literally laugh as I'm saying the question because there's a piece of me that knows it's not measurable. But then there's a second piece which just says John, literally. My mind said John, right? Sarah's mind said John. Vern's mind said John. So then we circle back to Eric's thing. Is it meaningless that a bunch of people pick John? But no, it's not. But is it a measurement of anything? Fuck no.
So let
Fuck
me ask
no,
you,
it's not.
John, how do you feel by hearing people say that about you? What is that like for you?
Good question.
There's an ambivalence, and I imagine I think the ambivalence exists with the measurement piece where it's like I'm considering all of the time I put into it, and it's meaningful, but you can't, it's not something that can be fucking measured. So it's like I have both things too. And
That's
it's like I
yeah.
immediately think of, I mean, you were the first person that came to my mind, Steve, and it's like because of the amount, like the time that you put into this, I was thinking like how long was Steve thinking about this group before this group even started? Like I'm considering all of those things, but like that's yeah, it goes back to the meaning versus the measurement thing. So I mean, I definitely have that piece in me too,
Mm.
big time.
I think the hardest thing for me, Maria, is I felt like in a very
Can't.
doorstep.
Yeah, I can't take it. I'm getting
I
I'm
felt in a
getting
very door seven way that this specifically was gonna make you pissed off.
yeah,
What I'm choosing to do with my hour.
I'm
I
gone. I'm
felt
so
I
gone.
didn't for some reason feel afraid I'd piss Steve off by doing this, but I was afraid I'd piss you off. And that difference between you and him is strange to me. That I felt a real panic inside and a hyper vigilance about you as I started pushing this And I don't know what that means, but I just tell
It's
you it was
the
there. It didn't
it's the
stop me from
gray
doing it.
area. It's the gray area, Sam.
It
You're in the
it could
gray
be.
area. Because like
Could be.
what like when you say love, I mean
Oh,
I
it's not
like
defined. There's a million
did I
problems.
love my
Yeah.
first girlfriend more than I love my wife?
Not measurable immediately. The speed at which I find that to be unmeasurable is like instantaneous.
And this is really what's happening
Mhm.
now is really important because you see what happens with people who are oppose this from an ego standpoint is that they will ask unmeasurable questions as a proof that this
Mhm.
doesn't work.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
The
Yeah,
statement that,
correct.
well, if this is true, this must be able to measure all things. And that is one of the most important things to take to heart. This idea of, okay, do I feel like I've helped a particular client? Okay, help them to do what?
And help's undefined. I mean, there's a million, but the speed at which my mind
Would
finds the
they say it?
problems
Would they
is
say it?
fast.
And what Clancy said, okay, in this moment where they're remembering, like Jesse remembering the boiling water or something, right? Or remembering he, the struggle to remember the time when he didn't know his parents were ones. I
Mhm.
don't know how many of
Mm,
you observed that he had to make an effort to
Mhm.
remember because when you evolve, like when you learn to ride a bike, it's hard to remember not what it felt like, the experience of not knowing.
Mhm.
You know it happened, but it's hard to know. Like this tipping point with emergence is that when something emerges, you can't feel what it was like before it emerged.
Mhm.
mhm.
That's the proof.
Boy,
That's the proof that emergence evolves things, that you can't go back. And this is not just emergence. Life does this. When you fall in love the first time, or have sex the first time, or ride a bike the first time, or like get the 100 on a test the first time, or so. All of these things cause life-changing experiences. Once you have that, you can't go back.
Mhm.
Like, I have never seen a situation like Clancy's in school where she had the wrong file form and they fucking punished her. I have never
yeah,
seen that before, ever in my life. It's so egregious. I found it hard to believe. When I came to actually believe, okay, they did this, Clancy and I both moved into a place where there was an openness, and now look, she's in the class again, and she gets a human being for a teacher. Amazing, right? Would we have predicted any of that? No, 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 right. So, but this idea of asking the question that can't be answered in the way that we answer questions. Of course,
correct.
there can be an answer. Of course, there
I
is.
mean, yeah, there was a number of answers given.
And
Yeah,
those answers being given, to your credit, Sam, caused things to come to the surface, like Sarah and I and our oppositeness
mhm.
about this. That is probably will be the most important thing that emerged in this whole 3 hours. That so
Yeah,
clearly the point wasn't about is it true or not. The point was what is it like to know and to not know.
100%. And the aha I had myself is that when my mind, after I laughed at myself, knowing full well, can't measure. The second thing that, when I said John, the aha I had is that the evidence I give is on that list you sent. The 50 personality traits.
Mhm.
Like that's the
Right.
kind of shit I would use for the evidence is
That's right.
ironically, and it really made me realize why those lists exist.
That's
Like
right.
that's exactly why those fucking lists exist is because that's the evidence that would be given, the traits that John has.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really crazy irony of it. Besides the irony is I'm making all this up based on measurements, but which is just like kind of just crazy. But Athena, I do want to know what happened in your mind when I said who loves emergence the most.
It was really funny because I went to Steve, but then the question came up, does he love it? And what is love? And what does it mean to love it?
Mhm.
Yes.
And and then, when he started saying like he hated it, it was like, okay, like right? Like what did you mean by that, even by that question?
Hmm.
Um, and then I looked at myself and it's like, do I love it? Um, there are times when I
It's
hate it.
awesome.
So that's how I knew I must
That's
love
great.
it.
That's awesome, Athena.
So
No,
what
that's really
I want all of you to think about a time when you romantically loved somebody. And it doesn't mean you're in a relationship. Romantically loved somebody, okay? So romantically loved somebody means you're in baby mind. And being in baby mind makes it a tipping point. And the tipping point is between I love them and I hate them. So love and hate exists only when people are in baby mind. And everybody who is in baby mind is romantic about whatever they're thinking about. Now, I just said some things never said before here, right, that are huge. But think about what I'm saying. What you brought up about the love and the hate, if you truly are in a relationship with somebody, you both love and hate them. You do. Like, and this is such a painful thing. Like, I feel this way about Hannah. I love her and I hate her. And I have no way to know when which will be which.
Mhm.
And both of them are like devastatingly painful.
Mhm.
Loving somebody is painful, you know? So when I love Emergence, I don't think I go into baby mind anymore, Sam. I'm realizing it as you brought this up. I don't go into baby mind
Mm.
because I can see the pain. And so the pain that I'm opposite from Sarah means more than the words I love or I hate Emergence. The pain, right? The thing that gives the thing meaning to me is that it affects another person and myself. That effect is the meaning. We give that words, like who loves the most, right? But no, the meaning is not the measurement.
Mm.
Not.
it's amazing. So some of the stuff like, yeah, some of the even though it's a little off, like just the implications about love, like someone that's fallen in love, it's like it by that definition, they literally can't love. I mean, it's just yeah, like you have like and it's like the whole time I've been thinking like, can you measure love? We can measure, I think, with emergence, love and hate, but the word most immediately make it's as soon as that is introduced, it's gone. You can't possibly do that. Yeah, but love and hate, I could measure Maria hates this hour, you know, and she loved well, I don't know if she loved the last hour. Honestly, she might have hated both hours in terms of just the raw pain of knowing emergence.
But
I
yeah,
I
I
just
think. Go ahead, Vern. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm having an experience. It's been coming, but I'm having the experience of crossing over to the hate with emergence, which is a good thing. And I think what's coming up for me is how it's so difficult to explain things. It's so difficult to understand, and that's creating inside of me um almost not what's the point, but what the fuck. So that's I know it's good that I'm shifting from just absolutely loving it because I think it's just absolutely brilliant. Um and yeah, so that's I just wanted to mention that.
I wanted to mention the idea that in the last basics group, I have mentioned this idea that in a general sense, Clancy is the most openly skeptical with respect of any of you. And Eric, I want to say to you that you're really moving into that. I tried to say, look, this is necessary. And you so respectfully brought up the specific and the general thing. And I want you to recognize that when you do that skepticism in a respectful way, that you positively open a lot of minds here and you affect a lot of what's going on in the process. That's very important. right? I mean, this is one of these things about emergence that, like, that says, well, here's an evidence for it not being a cult. A cult doesn't allow somebody to be skeptical, let alone encourage it or reward it. A cult doesn't allow somebody to say, well, I'm coming to hate it, right? Vern would get punished in a cult. And since I've actually deprogrammed a couple people from, international cults, I know that the terror that they had inside them of speaking up and saying a question, what about this? And then they get punished, right? But this is really like the kind of incubator for whatever this thing will become after I'm long gone, which is that these ideas must come up from people who at least are willing to endure the pain, like for instance Sarah or Eric in this time about the pain of going down a road that's the other road, and then recognizing, oh God, I really don't know. I do think I understand, but really I don't. And I hope all of you recognize that I am constantly seeing more things about this. It is not because I'm so smart. It's because I am so past much, not all, of the traditional method.
Yeah, and Sarah, you shouldn't feel alone. I mean, when Steve was teaching us that, we talked a lot about Einstein and Niels Bohr, because Niels Bohr basically, this is metaphoric, but stood in front of the boiling pot of water and said, we'll never know where the first bubble is going to come from. And Einstein said, at some point we will know where the bubble is going to appear. So you're not in like the company that you keep when you have still an investment in that world. It's not like it's just schlubs, you know what I mean? Serious, including a piece of my psyche, still buys in. Not, I mean, or can think like that is probably more precise to say. So it's not like it's okay, you know. But yeah, I think that contrast I've never seen before today about everyone's in a different place in every scene, because there's some scenes where people are bought into the old thing because they regress to a time where they were like that, and there's scenes where you'll be the most open person, Sarah, and I'll be logical as all hell and linear and all this crap, and so it's just something to just be aware of. I think Maria finally ejected. She couldn't take it anymore. This crap. I texted her, "Do you love me or hate me?" She didn't respond. Go ahead. Who raised their hand? I missed it.
That was
Eric.
Go
me.
ahead.
Um, yeah, I mean, and not only that, when you were saying to Sarah about being in like, that foot is the foothold of psychology, right? It's not like what that other side of which the word that keeps jumping in my head is approximation, right? There's like this building a foundation of all these like statistics and measures and everything else. It's built on approximation of who loves emergence the most, right? I'm going to make an approximation here and then say, because it's the closest to the mean of all, since everybody said John, right? We can approximate that John loves it the most in this measurement, in this moment,
Ah,
in this
perfect, Eric.
group.
Perfect.
But does that mean that it's a fact?
Fuck no.
The bigger thing, Eric, is does that mean the question is worth asking? Can it be answered? Can it be measured? That's more important. But you're right, because the higher number pointed to John, well, the answer must be John.
Yeah, I mean that's why I used it, I feel like, because I feel like it naturally leads to all of the, like, this is why statistics exist. This is why, I mean, all these things are nested inside of this conversation. All of the things that exist in the world. I mean, it's funny to me because I don't, questions like that drive me nuts. But I'm like shocked at the amount of meaning we've gotten from a question that you normally just makes me react like Maria. Like that's my normal reaction to those kinds of questions. Because I do couples therapy and someone's like, "Yeah, I love him more than he loves me," and I'm like, "Oh God!" It's the amount of pieces that are fucked about that. The definitions, the measurements. I mean, I feel so alone when someone speaks like that. Go ahead, Sarah.
You respond to a question like that. Like in a
I respond like Maria responded to me being like this. I really do in the room. I go, there's just so many things wrong with what you just said. I can't even stand it. I'll say something like that literally because I can't. I have to be myself. I mean, I can't. I can understand that process, but that doesn't mean. I mean, you can see like Steve really gets the linear world, but it's like he doesn't have a good reaction to hearing it. I mean, it's not like it feels good to hear something that's made up. I mean, it's
Well,
unpleasant. Oh,
let
let me
me
not speak for you. Yeah,
let
go
me
ahead.
qualify this. Look, I see squares, the real idea of it, as beautiful, spiritually meaningful. But will there ever be a perfect square in the real world? No. The idea that that's a fractal measure means that it's a recognizable pattern in the real world, but is never going to ever be the same. I don't care
Mm,
how fine the manufacturing process is. I love linear things as theory, right? I love it. But then we are now talking about this being something that is true in theory and true in the real world, specific and general. That's what we're talking about. Jesse?
You know, I'm thinking about I've been really affected by the our last group on paradise when we were talking about paradise, and I feel like the conventional science, the conventional therapy is offering an answer to when the pot boils, like at this exact moment,
Yes.
and it's tricking people into thinking if I can stop that or if I can learn that,
Yes.
I can get to this paradise of no pain.
Yes.
And that shit, fighting that is just so incredibly hard in ourselves and in with our clients, like, or just anybody talking to anybody about emergent. I mean,
hmm
to be in that real love and hate place is just the pain
Yeah,
of it is just so hard to be with, you know. Um, I think it offers that seduction. I really do. Um, I just keep thinking about that. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think I love Sarah's question of what do you fucking say to the couple that's saying, "Well, I love you more than you love me." Um, I think of course, there's a million theoretical things I want to say to those people almost immediately about their thinking and their, but in some sense, a lot of times, like Sarah too, it's like I just ask them when you try to measure something like that, how much does it hurt you? Like if you try to measure,
Mm,
does this person love me more? Do I love you more than? And I try to get them to focus on how much pain they're actually in. I mean, that's one of those things when if you try to measure something that can't be measured, what happens to you as a human fucking being? If we all really gave it our damnedest to try to measure it is John does John love Emergence the most or anything like who Steve likes the best or any fucking thing, we would just wreck ourselves. We would not feel better in any way at all. We would I guarantee we'd all feel worse.
Yeah.
mm.
So there's something about that too, which we haven't spoken about, which is if you just try to measure shit that can't be measured, what happens to you? Go ahead, John.
I have a person that's so beautifully spoken because that just like hit the pattern of what happened to me yesterday. And I was out on the water for like 4 hours with Lindsay, and we're on Hendersonville Road driving to go get some barbecue. And all of a sudden, Lindsay looks up at the sky and she's like, "Oh my God, a rainbow." And I'm like, I look out and look, and it's a rainbow. And it's like the faintest rainbow that I've ever seen, but it's a fucking rainbow. And it's beautiful. And undoubtedly, it's a rainbow. And then I noticed, I did like the thought experiment of like, I see the rainbow, there's joy. And the minute that I started thinking about, I wonder if there are people that try and measure how much of the rainbow is there. And I wonder if, people would say that there is a rainbow is not a rainbow unless there's this amount of there. And the minute that I started even asking those questions in my mind, I lost John as a person. I lost the beauty. I lost the spirit of the fucking thing. And it's like I went away from the fucking measurement and tipped into the meaning piece. And that's the thing that I felt like was 100% measurable was the fucking rainbow. Doesn't matter how much of it, like, how bright it was, the pattern was there and it was real and it was alive and it was exciting. And the minute that I tipped into like, uh, the idea of like, can they measure like, how much color is there and all this stuff, it was like, I just lost it. And when you said that, it just reminded me of that moment and the beauty of like just seeing the tipping point, just seeing the pattern versus like how much of it is there. You can't.
Yeah, exact. I'm thinking about when I re-brought up the boiling water thing, and Jesse started smiling. That measurement of he has some surprise about that, but versus who's had the most pleasant surprises in the group, fucking destroy, or who's the best at giving a pleasant surprise, or who's the suffering just starts to it'll just rip you limb from limb. But I don't know if people are in touch with how much it fucking wrecks them to do that measurement.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've had those measurements. I mean, I have them somewhere in the back of my mind. Like I can remember the first basics group. Like, you know, did people like Maria's hour more than mine? What a psychotic thing to think about. That is insanity. Like, but I just think about how bad I feel when that thought goes across my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like how many shitty fucking things I feel when I think that, and how faulty that is, and how there's no. I mean, we could spend an hour talking about how stupid that is. A thought, and I didn't choose the thought, but it happened to me. Go ahead, Steve.
Me?
Oh, you just look like you were winding up to talk.
No. No.
Wow, inference, killer, killer inference. Yeah, fucking awful.
I have a question, and I don't know if it's a derail, so just tell me. But is like the more question, like does somebody love somebody more than or whatever? Is it the same as like the word favorite? Like to use the word favorite?
Yeah, for me, in a spiritual sense, it's the same. It's not literally the same, but
Yeah.
yeah, well, here's the thing. Do you think favorite can be measured? Take your time.
I really want to fight with logic, and then my
That's
mind,
okay, Sarah. That's the point of this hour is it's trying to give more of a voice to the other side in some way.
yeah,
Do you feel, is your mind saying, yes, it can be measured?
yes, but I don't know how.
But that piece I'm not so, but that goes into something that I love. Figuring out if something can or can't be measured, I actually think can be fun even at times. You know? Like I wish I had Steve's mind sometimes because I'm curious. Sometimes he can come to that faster than me, and it's interesting to me, where I will still think maybe this can be fucking measured. I'm not sure, you
Yeah,
know?
like
So I'm not gonna say immediately no, favorite can't be measured, even though I feel like it can't intuitively. But I don't have like I couldn't tell you immediately why it can't.
if
Because
somebody
because the word itself isn't defined, Sarah. Like what is your definition for favorite? Because that will help me determine whether it can be measured or not,
well,
which is
my
a piece of emergence.
honestly, somebody asked me like, "What's your favorite ice cream?" the other day, and I said, "I don't really have favorites. I can't give you a favorite of anything." And so maybe that is a piece of information on how I can't measure it. Like, it's like, what mood am I in? What flavor am I wanting? How do I feel? It's like there's too many.
So you're like you're inching towards a measurement we use, which is change versus unchange. You're inching towards that's a real measurement that we use. Like your favorite ice cream. Can you personally have an unchanging favorite ice cream that in every context you exist in, you always like that one the best?
Probably not. Like, but
Bub?
I was just making observations in my head about Sarah. It was really interesting because you said you didn't have a favorite, but then it's like your mind's still trying to have a favorite. Like I can
Mhm.
see like fighting in you. It's
yeah,
just interesting. But I don't
I
know if that's true. That's just what I was observing in you.
But
no,
think of all the measurements. So another measurement, theory versus the real world, Sarah. Can you see that related to what you're talking about?
mhm, yeah.
That's a measurement we use in emergence. We can use that. Like, is the thing a theory or the real world? I mean, that's the thing. And it's like there's so many. So you can take a situation and plug it into some of these pairs of perfect natural opposites. And then there's pieces of the thing we're talking about that can't be plugged into those. And those are the things when I can't plug what you're saying into any of the patterns that I know, then I start to feel like I can't know it. Like I can know. Go ahead, Sarah.
Well, part of it is I think sometimes maybe this is what Maria was saying is I don't always, if let's just say favorite is one side. What is the perfect opposite to favorite? I don't always feel like I know what is the other perfect opposite to use as a comparison.
Yeah, Sarah, that's and this is one I want to try to go slow with, but one of my some of my favorite memories with Steve from like 10 years ago is getting on Saturday morning and I have something like an idea, like a favorite, and I get on and I literally am asking Steve, Steve, is there an opposite to this? Like I looking in the science book, there's literally a process about trying to find an opposite to a single point. Like that's actually a part of emergence is like having a single point experience and then looking for another an opposite of that thing that is a piece of measuring. And when you when you and if you can't find an opposite, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means you can't find it. And at a certain point I have to throw in the towel. I'm not going to do a semantic thing, well, because it might exist I'm going no, I can't find an opposite to I can't find an opposite to favorite. I've been trying off in the side for the last 48 seconds.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna say least favorite does not sound like a perfect opposite to me.
I always want to use like not like favorite, not favorite. like,
Yeah, that just doesn't feel like good to me, you know. So yeah, opposites like you and Steve in that moment where you guys were in seven together, that looked like a perfect opposite to me because it was different forms of the same suffering.
Yes.
Evolved, you know, it not resolved. Steve hasn't resolved the suffering you feel. It's just evolved into a different thing.
so we would say that, or could we say that if we can't find a perfect opposite to that thing, it's not measurable? Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, yes, that's very accurate, sir. For me, at least. I don't know about
It,
everybody else, but that's accurate for me.
it is accurate, Sarah. What we're saying is we can't measure single points.
Yeah. Okay.
We can favorite is a single point. You can know it's not measurable in our sense, which, according to us, we can know something's true in theory and the real world both at the same time, which is very unusual. So that requires that you have a fractal pattern, which to me is spiritual and exists in our world. But favorite, like things like that, worst, best, all the superlatives, they exist in human language because of baby mind. Because in baby mind, you're splitting. Either you love or hate. Either it's true or not. Either it's my favorite or my worst, best favorite or worst favorite, or like things like this. And so in the baby mind state, these things, superlatives exist. So when, no coincidence, when people say, I'll love you forever, paradise, I love you the most of ever, paradise, they're baby minded things. So when we're saying the thing about our work, it's not, it doesn't exist in baby mind. Emergence doesn't exist. And conventional science wants everything to be baby minded. This is the answer, the final answer, the complete answer.
And like we were talking about with Eric, like things have meaning to me that are in the regular world. Like a statistical study has meaning to me. But I'll tell you that when I measure something with emergence measurements, it also has a meaning, and it has for me it has extreme, it has a special kind of meaning to me. I'm not going to say more because of everything we just went through, but it has a special meaning to me is all I would say. I take notice of it in a different way, like seeing Jesse's face react to the boiling water is different than reading a statistical study where 70% of people, or Japan has the most people over 100 and this whatever blah blah blah. It has a different, I don't light up the same way as when I see a pleasant surprise. I just don't. So there's it, but it doesn't have no meaning just because it doesn't, we just because you can't measure it our way, it doesn't have no meaning. And I'm not sure why, when I try to teach, when I used to try more with people that are opposing, when I would, it's so sad because I still have, their world has meaning to me, but my world has no meaning to them when I try to teach it to them. And that's the worst. It's such a shitty feeling to me because I still honor and respect that world, but people just throw mine away almost immediately, which is just so fucked up. And that's the piece that makes me the sickest is like, still sit there reading statistics studies or whatever, but they can't spend 2 seconds on my world. I'm killed. I've done part of this group still trying to make space for that world that lives in people's in this group's head. And there's no room for my world. So I could break down about that. Like, that sucks, you know, and I have no explanation for why that is, but it's not, I don't like it. It's upsetting. And it makes me sometimes angry and want to just punish by just shitting all over that world. But it's then I would be just like them. So I don't want to do it.
Hmm.
Damn, I
Yeah.
just had this huge I saw something like everything that you were describing about the world. It's just kind of, I drew so many parallels in my marriage that I actually
Oh yeah.
I just, yeah, there's a lot going on right now. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. No, I have 5 minutes left, but I really don't have 5 minutes left because I don't have anything else in my head.
Hmm.
I'm going on about the whole favorite, best, that inability to measure and the suffering that comes with it, right? I'm like, if someone is, if I'm dwelling on something that I can't measure, is that the root of my suffering? Or anyone, right?
Hmm.
Never considered it.
Hmm.
And the reason why it's so present for me is because, like my daughter Claudia will say, like, I'm dad's favorite and Sophia's your favorite, and like, you like me more, or you like so
Oh.
and so more, and that
Mhm.
constant comparing, is that contributing to her mental health, right? Like, is that contributing to that?
I mean, from my body, I want to just say yes immediately. I even think like that. This feels incredibly deep in terms about being a person. But even I'm thinking about existential things like I can't measure death, which is unbearable for me at times. That I can't measure it at
Mm.
all, but I still try to measure death all the time. Like what happens after, I still go to do it, and it just rips me apart. It just rips me apart. Measuring what it would be like for Clancy if I'm dead or vice versa. I like try to measure it. And it just makes me feel, I mean, it's beyond words how bad it is. Yeah. But yeah, Athena, that's incredibly insightful shit, man. Seriously.
See, I'm gonna make a great fucking therapist, guys.
Come on.
So Athena.
Someday when I finally get there.
Same.
Steve, you're unreadable, man. I can't measure anything. My brain is
I'm suffering.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah, over the past month or so, I've been working on staying in seven, which means the opposite of all these words, like having no words. If you're in seven, you have no words. If you have suffering and you have words, you're not in seven. Maybe you're flipping in there at moments, but seven, a baby doesn't have words. And the pain is, I'm learning to live with the pain more honestly. Oh, look at this. There's Tom. How nice.
there
So,
he is.
Hey,
Sorry, I
Tom.
had patience this morning.
so, thank you, Sam.
Yeah, of course.
So, I think at this point, a lot is, it's a good thing that's been happening is separating out the measurement that the conventional science makes, which they don't, they think that just about anything is measurable. And that's what's come up. The idea that all the superlatives, all or nothing, and so on are baby minded, that they exist in theory, and they exist in people's minds when they're in a baby mind, but they're tipping something that isn't really tippable. You know, you can't just love or hate someone. It's, you know. So, all right, so a few things that have not come up about measurement and what makes our way of measuring that this is real different. One of them is that every measurement is provisional, meaning that with the evidence that we've gathered so far, we can say. Now, that's only about the things we claim to be able to measure, like character type, etc. You know, mind body orientation, scene story. These are tipping point based, therefore we can measure them. But what are we measuring? The word often is used to measure amount. We're not measuring amount. And that's a critical piece to know. We're not measuring an amount of anything. We're not measuring amount. We're measuring a state. It's in this state or this state. A coin being tossed in the air and landing, it has two states that it can land in. If it lands, and it lands like on a side, not stuck in something, it can be heads or tails. If it lands, we're certain of the outcome. Specifically, it's heads. Generally, it's heads. This piece, this moment, this thing is heads. But you notice there's no amount. Is there an amount of heads? Does it mean something to say this is more heads than this coin? This is less tails than this thing? No, it is an irrelevant thing. It is a nonsense idea. Right. But I'm sure that there's somebody out there who might determine that heads means landing perfectly flat with the head side up, and therefore they're going to measure the amount of perfect, close to perfect flatness is in it. Like Maria's thing with her fence and level. So we don't do that. And no coincidence, the major flaw that's in all AI right now is that they don't know when they can't ask a question, when they can't make a measurement. That's the major flaw. So, can you see that the world and all of you to some degree don't know in a perfect way, obviously, when you can or cannot ask a question? So, this idea of saying, how lit is the candle, is a nonsense question. It's lit or not, right? How much is Tom on in the group now? That's a nonsense question. He's here. How much is um, Jesse playing with his beard? How much? It's a nonsense question. Now, could we say we've observed that he's touching it more times, more often than whatever than usual? I suppose, but more often than what? More often than what other time? So this idea that most of the questions that we could ask about people, emergence has no answer for because the questions can't be measured in our way of measuring. Is Vern a good student? What the fuck does that mean? It doesn't have a meaning, really. It's not a measurable thing. Yet all of education measures students by tests. Tom?
I remember a time you had mentioned that 25% of the population of the world are twos, and I tried to quantify that using the current empirical science, and I was like, how could you possibly know that? You'd have to count.
Empirical science.
Well, whatever
No,
you
no,
want to
no,
call
but
it.
it's important, Tom. I'm not finding fault. I'm just saying that's a kind of science where observations are the only thing that is used to take the measure. Empiricism. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying you had an emergence-based measurement, and I was trying to use what I had learned in school to measure, and it wasn't working.
That's correct, Tom. That's correct. But now if we say, how many, is the candle lit or not, we can say that the measurement itself is a 50-50 outcome. We could say that, even though in the real world, most of the candles in a candle store aren't lit, maybe none of them, right? But we're not talking about that. That's where the confusion comes from. We're not measuring amounts. As soon as you measure an amount, then it's not tipped. It's like one of those pointer scales. Oh, look, it's 40 or it's 40 over here or whatever. We don't measure things with amounts. Now you're saying an amount of the theoretical uh, population, but that's not a measure by counting. That's a measure by um, permutation, a math that's supposed to say, well, what are the possible things and are they equal?
But
And
the rest of the population is going to do what I tried to do.
yeah. So, what I started to say is the word provisional is an important thing to say to people because most science is trying to have something that's final, a conclusion. They even say this in logic. My conclusion is. That means that you're done. You know everything there is to know about this thing, and you're done. You're all knowing about this thing. People don't realize that's what conclusion means, but conclusion means you're done looking. No more looking needed. Done. This is door number 7 in the learning circle. Done. I have a conclusion. And in emergence, we have a provisional measurement. Provided that we admit that this is as much as we've observed so far, here's what we can say. Like, is the candle lit? Now you turn away. Can you say now if the candle's lit? You could say based on all the measurements I made before it is, but it might have gone out. This idea is a brain breaker. And it's married to another word. The provisional idea is married to the word anomaly. So it's an interesting Latin root because a is without and nam is name. So it's saying the thing that we're talking about can't be included in this group with this name, anomaly. Um, but how does emergence handle anomalies? Let me ask you that, Sam.
we, we definitely don't ignore them, that's for sure.
Good. What else?
That's the first thing that comes to mind. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I see it, Tom.
It
Yeah.
depends. It depends. I would need more context on what the anomaly is. I mean, what
No,
kind of
no
anomaly?
context.
I can't.
Context
I don't have
independent.
any more. I have no more theoretically context independent ideas about anomalies other than they're not to be ignored.
Okay. All right.
And if they can't be integrated in, it has a meaning to me. Like, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. So, Tom, you were going to say something?
Yeah, if it doesn't account for all the things, then it doesn't fit. Like for an anomaly, if you're talking about a diagnosis or something, and you're putting stuff in the funnel and there's an outlier, whatever the diagnosis is has to account for that.
That's not the way most doctors function, but I get what you're saying, what we're talking about. Okay, so
I see the connection to the provisional piece with that
good,
because
good.
that's what keeps it. Yeah, yeah. Because if there's a new piece of data, we open everything. We're supposed to just remain open, but if not, it opens back up.
In other
I,
words,
I,
there are no final measurements. There are no conclusions. There are no this is it in emergence. But at the same time, that we can say, for now, this is what we can be certain of as of now. And character type is one of those things where I've seen circumstances change in a person's life and they grow, and then you see things that weren't visible before. So, did they change? No, but their presentation changed, and that presentation changed based on what they were aware of in their life. So, but provisional means that no measurement is over, but it's over for now. And an anomaly is what makes the provisional measurement go, oh, now we're testing the provisional measurement and going, well, emergence doesn't allow anomalies to remain and consider that the measurement exists anymore. The minute it's an anomaly, it has to either fit into this thing, or we have to consider that the measurement no longer stands. And now let me add something. Normal science considers anomalies as we can ignore them, or we can add an extra rule to the theory, like an exception. Either ignore it, or ad hoc add something that has nothing to fucking do normally with the theory to make it fit in these special cases. Okay, Emergence says, well, that's bullshit. The thing has to fit, or the measurement isn't able to be made. Sarah?
How do we account for the word spectrum? We're like
Okay. The
it,
word spectrum is a word that, okay, how do we account for it? Let me ask you what you're asking.
when we were flipping heads or tails on like the coin, it is or it isn't. But yet in, let's just say, autism spectrum disorder, or like there's, wouldn't it be it is or it isn't? It's not like there's a spectrum of.
Okay, okay. First of all, Sarah, what's the first thing that you must ask before you even go to that question?
Is there an opposite?
Before that, that's good, Sarah, but before that, what is the first thing?
Could it be
You're
measured?
asking a good question.
Measured?
Can it be measured? That's correct. And not can it be measured in conventional science, because it can. Can it be measured in the way we measure things? And the answer is no. Is there a use for the word autistic? Well, let's say that the use is that if a person gets a diagnosis, their insurance may pay for treatment. So does it serve a purpose? Sure. Yes. But when we're talking about can it be measured the way that we consider something measurable, no. It's absurd.
Hmm.
Now, the idea of a spectrum, okay, Is there a spectrum of a candle being lit? Exactly. So now the only things that we measure, the only things we look to measure, are things that are not on a spectrum. Even though in theory there is a spectrum from the smallest to the biggest, or all or nothing, or me first and you. Let's take the thing from me first and you first. That is like the candle's lit or not lit. If you're in a U state, you can't be in a me state. If you're in a me state, you can't be in a U state. And if you're not in an observable state, you can't make a measurement. There's no spectrum. But we can say that there is variability into how strongly this thing exists. But a spectrum isn't really something that is like the lit candle. It's more something that's just simply saying that there's this range. Where does it exist on the range? And with us, we're going, does it tip here or tip here? There's a point at which a thing flips, but that's not what happens in a spectrum.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Can you see that? A
Yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah.
You are asking something that is used. You're asking something you must know to have a license to be a therapist. You're asking something that people, it has a use when you're beginning to see if something can tip, right? But if there's no tipping point, whether there's a spectrum or not is irrelevant. You know, um, something that is important. There are important things that you can point to that show that actual things in the real world change in a way that they change in tipping points. They don't change in on a spectrum, because a spectrum kind of says that it's an even gradation from here to here, like hot to cold or things like this. Okay, so let's take temperature and the temperature of water. Okay, so Sarah, at what temperature does water, liquid water, change to solid water?
30, is it 32? 32
Go ahead.
degrees?
Okay, you can say
I
this.
have no idea.
You're not getting tested. It's not a science class.
I wanted to say it's 32, but I don't know.
Okay, because there are things about water freezing that you don't know. Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, let's say we have a quart of water, right? And we're going to ignore the container. We have a quart of water, and it's liquid, and we're going to freeze it. Okay, we put the water in the refrigerator. Okay, and we're going to turn the temperature up so that it is below, it's lower than 32 degrees, right? Why do we do that? Because we're moving the water temperature, right? Okay, and the water, say, as it's going in there is room temperature, so it's 71 degrees. So you put the quart of water in the refrigerator, and can you see it's in a glass bottle and it's water, and you can shake it and put it in there, right? Okay, now the door on the refrigerator is glass, so you can see and observe what's happening to the water, right? Right. So now, if you look at ice and you look at water, do they look different?
Yeah.
Right. They're clearly different, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right. The water is more, you can see through it, and the
Translucent.
ice is more opaque. It's more difficult, right? You can't see through it. Do you ever think about that? That a change in water when it's liquid to solid means you can't see through it, or you can see through it.
Hmm.
Right, right. So now, if we were to say we can see through it like water, or we can not see through it like ice, that's a tipping point. We can see it. It's an observable thing. We don't need a thermometer to know that the thing is solid or liquid, like the candle flame being lit or not lit, right? Okay. So now it is said in the world that at sea level, this is important, right? Because the pressure of gravity is different as you move away from the Earth and closer to the center of the Earth, right? It increases the closer you get to the center of the Earth, like going under the sea, right? But at sea level, right? Like right at the shore, level of the sea, ice freezes and 32 degrees is the number that's said. Okay. So now, when you put the bottle of water in the refrigerator, right? And let's say we have the refrigerator set to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Okay, so 12 degrees below that point. So it's going to start to freeze. Okay. Which molecule in the bottle freezes first?
Come on, Sam. No, I'm just kidding. We wouldn't know.
Me channel Einstein. He probably actually does know now which one.
Okay.
We would.
So it's fractal. The freezing process is fractal. So no. But now let's say, because you don't know this, um, okay, how do I do this simply? Water freezes, let's see, liquid water can be 32 degrees and not frozen. Ice can be 32 degrees and frozen. It's not even just which molecule. I can't remember the name right now. I think it's called a transitional state. But water happens to be something which it can be both liquid and solid at 32 degrees.
Is that where it's like on the outside it's starting to freeze, but on the inside it's still not frozen?
No, no, Sarah. This is a really mind-boggling idea.
I think Athena gets it. She shook her head.
She and I have probably talked about this. But the idea that I'm trying to say to you is, so how do you get to actually see the tipping point in the water freezing? You can't. How could you? If you're measuring it by temperature, liquid and solid water can both be at 32 degrees in the same container. Now, it's changing from liquid to solid, but the temperature isn't changing. How about that? When water is going from ice and it's melting to water. The liquid water and the solid water can be both 32 degrees. What are you going to measure then? How are you measuring that it's ice or water? Can you possibly not know whether it's ice or liquid water if you look at it? No. It is not possible that you don't know with certainty that's ice, that's water, liquid water. You can't not know. It's certain. But in a strange way, 32 degrees, that's the area. Clancy?
Yeah, I have a question. So, does it mean that if it's ice, it's gonna stay ice, and if it's water, it'll stay water, or you just don't know which way it'll tip?
It's really a brilliant question, Clancy, because I don't know the answer. I don't know if it wavers, but I think that, okay, I think that liquid to solid water is a tipping point, but the tipping point happens at the same temperature.
Yeah.
And what means that it's going to, tip one way or the other might be that it's below 32 degrees in the refrigerator. So it's pulling it in that direction.
Okay.
Or it's 33 degrees in the refrigerator and so the ice is beginning to melt, but it melts at 32 degrees means it's solid, then it's liquid, and it's not changed temperature. This is a
Hmm.
mind-boggling idea.
Yeah, it is.
We're talking about what you can and can't measure. And Sarah, what I'm saying is, can you absolutely measure with emergence that the thing is ice versus liquid water? Yes. You can fucking see it. You don't need to be a genius. You don't need a thermometer. A 4-year-old can see ice, water, liquid water. without knowing any of the rest of the stuff. We don't need to know because it's fractal. And I gave you one of the fractal qualities. It's opaque or it's transparent.
Can I ask, so what if we have it in the glass container and
Yes.
part of it is liquid and part of it is ice, like it hasn't transit? Would we say that that part is ice and that part is liquid, but it can't be both because it's not?
So
Oh, I mean,
each molecule, okay. What you can't see
okay.
is you can't. It's just not possible to say with any certainty how something melts.
But I see what you're saying. The molecule itself. It's like the collective, the
Now you
collective.
don't do that. Don't do
Yeah.
the collective. That because as soon as you do the collective, now you're doing the old science. If we have a big enough sample, we can know this. No, I'm not trying to get you to know this this quality. What I'm trying to do is get you to see what can we measure, what can we not measure, and look at that we can measure things in a way that a 4-year-old can see it. A lit candle, ice or liquid water. When we look at these things, a child can see them. You don't have to be brilliant to do that. But no one will ever understand how that in a linear way how something melts or freezes because it's not linear. It never will be. It never happened the same way twice. Okay, so this is an evidence for that what we can measure natural things. What natural things, how can we measure natural things? Human nature is a natural thing, mind body orientation, for instance. But how can we measure natural things? We can only measure natural things which have tipping points. We can measure whether the thing is ice or liquid water with certainty, and a 4-year-old can do it. No instruments necessary. Okay, another example is how many of you can picture a candle flame right now? Tom, does your what? How many color bands of color does your candle flame have?
2.
That's not a candle flame. But what I'm saying to you is, I just did a test of whether you can or cannot picture a candle flame. And please don't feel bad. Almost nobody realizes that a candle flame shows how heat changes in the world. A candle flame has bands of color depending on how hot the candle is burning. And the colors change from this bright whitish yellow to blue. It moves through a whole spectrum of colors, but it doesn't move in a spectrum. It moves in bands. This is exactly the same way that the Earth changes temperature. When you climb mountains, you have to be careful for something called thermals, where in a 2 feet, the temperature can drop 10 degrees as you go up, because the temperature doesn't change in a spectrum gradually. Temperature changes naturally, not like whatever artificially, but temperature on mountains changes in bands. It tips, and it tips in a noble way. What is happening in John's rainbow? Where are the colors coming from? Not what's the whole mechanism, but where are the colors coming from? Why are there bands of color in a rainbow as opposed to a smooth change? Because changes in color, temperature, all those things occur in tipping points. All natural things change like that. If a thing changes in a spectrum, we've done something that's artificially creating, smoothing it out. All natural things change in tipping points is a grand statement. Natural things. Clancy,
Yeah, I was just curious, like, because Tom pictured two bands and you said it can't be a candle flame if it has two bands. So how many bands does a candle flame have? Like, does it have a set number?
I'm leaving this up to all of you, but I am going to say to you, I have never seen a candle with two bands. That's not enough. But
Okay.
I don't know how many. It's based on the temperature of the burning of the wick, how quickly it's burning, how much oxygen is in the room. If you shoot oxygen into a lit candle, you're going to see the thing is going to have like sparks plus blue light. It's going to be suddenly become blue. Think of when you light a gas stove, right? If you look at the flame in a gas stove, it's going to have bands
Mm, okay.
because
I
it
thought you
is.
knew the number, but I
But
get
the,
what you're saying.
but no. But I remember what we don't do not counting. It's just that the changes occur. This is a really important question
Mhm.
you're asking because you want to ask something that isn't fixed.
Yeah, I had in my mind that you knew an answer, which
Well,
is
I know
silly.
that it's not two.
I was like, it's 32.
No, but what I'm saying to you is it's not two because the range of temperature in a candle lit candle is much more than just two.
Mhm. Right. That makes
I don't
sense.
know
Okay.
what it is. You might do,
Yeah.
you have candles in your house?
Yeah. I'll
You,
look.
yeah, you can look.
Okay.
You can look. Right. All right. What's something else that has that you know that's obvious that has tipping points? A real world thing that a 4-year-old could see.
Tree.
What's that?
A tree.
Excellent, John. Talk about it.
We got the trunk, and then you have the branch. The trunk is not the branch. And then you have, even if you have a leaf, there's the stem, and then you have the leaf. They're the two that are one. The stem is not the leaf is not the stem. And it's clear you can see between both things.
Okay. Clancy?
I'm sorry. I feel like I have too many
No, no,
things in
do
front of me.
not, no, do not do that. I like your skepticism. Ask.
Are my questions annoying? I'm sorry.
Oh
Okay.
my God.
I'm just thinking about like a tree versus a bush and like what's the tipping point between like a tree
That's
and
good.
a shrub.
Clancy,
We've
Is
that's
it
gone
too
into this
woody?
one.
this is
But
good.
I remember we talked about this one
we
time.
did?
Yeah, I think,
Okay.
well, this was like a couple of years ago. We were nerding out
Okay.
about
But let me set
Okay.
that aside because what Clancy is saying is can be very hard to see. So why I'm talking about things that you can see like liquid and solid water or the candle's lit or not lit, right? Or there are bands of color in a rainbow or in a candle flame. So I thought you were going to say something else, John, because there are tipping points in a tree. They're the rings. The rings in the trunk are tipping points from year to year. They're exactly the same as like the bands of color in a rainbow or etc. Thermals. The trunk is tipping point based. They literally can count the number of years because a ring is not just a ring. It's not just say it changes color. It literally changes color at different points in the year. So you can look at a petrified trunk of a tree and tell this from millions of years ago, and the tipping points are still there. So a trunk of a tree is tipping point based. And you can say with certainty, a 4-year-old, well, maybe not a 6-year-old can say this tree is 6 years old by counting the rings. No special tools necessary. The tree in the bush thing is tough. That thing is tough. Yeah. I think scientists would argue. Clancy?
I'm just like, what's the tipping point? Like knowing the age of it is, I feel like I'm not getting it for some
Okay.
reason.
Can you picture
Yeah.
okay? And now can you see that you can see the rings?
Yes. I'm just
And
curious
you
what
can
we're
see the
measuring.
rings because the color changes as it moves toward the end or beginning of a year.
Hmm.
It goes from darker to lighter,
Right.
or lighter to darker as it goes out. Okay.
Yeah.
So the tipping point is between the dark thing and the next light thing.
Okay.
Can you see it in your mind?
Yes.
And it is telling you that it's a different year because it's a different type of growth in the tree at
Hmm.
different types of years.
Okay.
Can you picture each ring is a year?
Yes.
And can you tell when one year ends and the other one begins?
Yeah.
That's the tipping point.
Okay.
It's tipping into another year. Now, does it say what date of the year? No. It just says a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anything else that you guys can think of as tipping point based? It's simple measure. Tom.
I think of a kid in bed and their parents are saying goodnight, and then all of a sudden, boom, lights are off.
Well, we could talk about it as if it's a tipping point, but a tipping point would be pitch black and light so that it burned the eyes. Is the light on and off in the room? We could say that. But it's not like a candle flame. And why is it? Because a light going on and off in a room is an artificially created thing, Tom.
Okay.
But I want you to see it's not that there's no, it's not similar, and it's not that it's not useful for say the light is on or the light is off. But our measures, we only measure naturally occurring things. There's no naturally occurring electric light that I know of. Maybe an
Lightning,
electric eel, I don't even know.
lightning.
Okay, so let's say things about you as a person, any of you as a person. Okay, one of my favorite things that's immeasurable is gender. How do you define gender? What is a man? What is a woman? Is it just genitals? Is that the thing? Is that the thing? No. Yeah, what's a real man? A real woman? Jesus Christ. So, what is that? Well, this is a made up word. It's not that people are not natural, it's a made up word. What is gay or straight? What does that mean? Like, here's Kinsey in the 50s that says, well, this is bullshit. The Kinsey scale is something that says there are tipping points based on frequency of sex or something. Well, that's very limited, but things like gender, it's a made up idea. Made up. And look at how people use the made up idea to punish people. You know? Fucking made up idea. Okay. What's another made up thing that people treat as an actual measure?
I mean, it's in the same thing, but it's just the same thing. It's just even fuzzier, like masculinity. It comes, that's one that's just like femininity. Those things are like, that's like gender. It's like
And Sam, every
so
single thing,
immeasurable,
that's right, every single thing.
not real.
But the point of it is um, conventional science makes up artificial measures. We embrace those artificial measures as if they can actually be measured. The beginning of the thing goes wrong when it's not a naturally occurring thing. Somebody might say, but are a man and woman naturally occurring things? Yes, but the interpretation that they're a man or a woman is not a naturally occurring thing. It's not. So Eric mentioned obesity. Is this a man-made idea or a natural thing? I'm
Man-made,
asking the question. What's that?
man-made.
Prove it.
I mean, I don't think, I mean, I don't know what it means. I mean, that's the proof in and of itself. I'm like, I don't even have a fucking thing in my head that it is defining it at all.
Okay.
I mean,
But a 4-year-old, like my my character type 1 younger sister Eva was in church one time, and a woman was in her way. She was like 6 years old or 5 years old, and we're going into the pew, and Eva says, "Get out of the way, you fat pig."
Jesus. Okay. How old was she?
6. She's a 1. So what the
I
hell,
got it.
right? Get out of the way, you fat pig. So is that person obese because a 6-year-old says she's fat? The
No, I mean, I just
6-year-old
think
is
of the.
observing something, but it is not. Is it a measurable thing? Is it a man-made thing? And really, you can see in this case, here's a 6-year-old kid can say this thing, and granted, it's a mean thing to say, but she's referring to that the person is not thinny, they're fat. But is that a measurable thing? At what point do you become fat? At what
No,
point
it's
are you
bullshit.
thin? At what point? What does that mean? And what part of you is fat and what part of you is thin? Does it mean,
Right.
some of those women on, that famous picture of the woman with a glass on her butt? Like, I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah. Like, does she have a big ass? What's the measure? What is the measure? Okay, while we're laughing at this, I am saying that this is the thing that is so painful because the world accepts these things as measurable. And they do what Sarah mentioned, they make a scale-based measurement, which is a spectrum.
Oh yeah, like the BMI, like all that crap.
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 5, how
Bullshit.
depressed are you? Like a Likert
Yeah,
chart.
the Beck's depression.
How
Right.
much do you agree?
I was
Agree
thinking,
right now? Agree with those vague words you said? Agree with what?
Ugh, it's exhausting.
But now you can easily, all of you can easily see the vagueness in this and the fact that it's not actually a measurable thing. Based on what you said early on, Sam, is there a value to saying somebody's obese? I would argue that it has both sides. That if once a person identifies as obese, that doesn't necessarily mean they're better off. Maybe they hate themselves more. Maybe they don't change at all. you know. And very rarely do people talk much, an equal amount about people who die from being too thin. Yet so many people die from it that there's a name. My mother died of anorexia, right? But does a person treat a skinny person, to an excessively skinny person, with as much contempt as an excessively, and these are bullshit words, fat person? No, no, not at all. And this is put into us by the time we're 5 or 6 years old by the scientific world, which says it's better to know that you're obese or not, which I can't argue that there's no value, but I can argue that it can't be measured. What were you thinking, Eric, when you brought it up?
Well, that it's a good example of that sort of in between because theoretically, you could argue if your BMI is over a certain number, that means you're obese, right? But it's
But it's a man-made measure.
yeah.
It's a man-made measure. In other words, that's not a naturally, like ice and liquid water are naturally occurring. We give them names, but there are names for something that actually exists. A rainbow and the colors in the rainbow, um, they change. Thermals on a mountain, it changes. It's not because of we're doing anything to it, you know. But when you're measuring BMI, I'm not sure. Have you ever had yours measured? Actually
Yeah, I
measured
mean
with a, not on a
I'm
scale.
over
No,
the
no, no.
line.
Eric, not on a scale. Have you ever have your BMI measured with a tool that like pushes into your arm or something? Probably not.
No, just a special scale that does the fat measuring. That's the only way I've done
Yeah,
it.
but these are, yeah, okay. The measuring is is a generalization using electric current that goes through and has resistance in a foot. Not the greatest way to measure it. I have one of those scales. It says that shit. Okay. But I am not saying that it has no use. I am saying it's not a real measurement. It's something that's made up. They arbitrarily say, okay, let's take blood pressure. So a machine is measuring blood pressure. And they now say if your blood pressure, the upper number is, the systolic number is 130, 131, you need medication. This is complete and utter bullshit. It used to be 141. Complete and utter bullshit there. Like at what point in the day? Did you just get up? Are you walking around? You know? Are you afraid of the measurement? And you have white coat syndrome where your blood pressure goes up because you're nervous? Athena?
Every time we talk about like obesity and stuff, it just reminds me of me and my friend Leah. So Leah, by all American, like if you were to look at her, you would say she's very, very slim. And she used to live in New York and in Paris. And when she's in Paris, she was a teetotaling, fat, busty person, right? And here she would be a skinny alcoholic. And and I was and same thing with me, right? Like when, this is going back a couple of decades, but I used to be considered heavy in Korea. So back when Korean women were skinny, I would go and I would be considered heavy, or in their eyes, very Rubenesque.
Yeah,
Whereas here, people would say that I was slim.
yeah.
And that's, yeah. And so I would have this, like, I would know where I am by how I was considered, whether I was considered fat or skinny.
Okay. So let's take what we've done so far because everybody has these examples and can see easily how vague these things are. And I've acknowledged that in some sense, being able to have a BMI is better than, some magical something. Okay, I'm going to get the demon out of your body or something so that you eat right. Okay. But what we're talking about is a measurement that proves the system exists. We're not talking about a measurement period. I could measure how long Clancy's hair is, yes? Would everybody agree that? Well, I'm going to tell you no. Which hair? Right. It doesn't, and which minute? Hair is growing constantly. Right. So I can't measure Clancy's hair, but I could approximate the length of some of the hair. But I can't. It's not measurable. Clancy's hair length is not measurable. How about that? However, her wanting a particular style or something, she could say something where that would be an understandable thing. I want to cut to here, or, right? Then you'd have to shoot yourself because you'd be throwing away beautiful hair. But whatever. Um, the point isn't about that. Can we come up with a way to think we're measuring? The point is, can we prove a system is real? That's really the point of today. Can we prove a system is an advancement over what exists already? That's what the measurement in emergence does. The first thing that emergence does better is that it knows what it can measure, it knows what it can't measure. The things that it can measure, when the measurements occur, there are outcomes that are certain in the real world and in theory. There are no other outcomes that are certain in both worlds. There are outcomes that are certain in theory, like the speed of light or the temperature that water melts at. But water freezes at 32 degrees and water melts at 32 degrees. And what is it then? That's the truth. Most people don't know that that's how refrigeration works. That when you get the thing to change from water to ice or ice to water, it absorbs heat. That's how cooling happens in a refrigerator. This is a bizarrely difficult idea. Anyway, so how confused are you right now? Anybody? How confused are you? It's not a matter of repeating back shit that I said. Clancy?
I don't feel confused, but I still, for some reason, I have a weird blind spot about when you like think of a tipping point. My brain just is empty. And then when you say one, I'm like, duh. But it's like I can't possibly conjure the idea in my own head yet.
That you just woke me up, Clancy, because that really is probably the starting point for it all. That you can hear what a tipping point is, but the idea of it doesn't land as something important. And I'm
Yeah.
saying
No.
the only things that we can measure are natural things and the tipping point that occurs in a natural thing. Like if you were to put like a kind of probe into a candle flame and have the point where it's measuring be on a different color, you would see, holy shit, they change temperature. Or if you were to look at the rings on a rainbow,
Yeah.
and you would see that it's literally dividing the light based on how many times in a second it loops through its frequent whatever. That's too hard. But the different colors in a rainbow, we don't need an instrument to measure. We can see, okay, that's a red, that's a yellow, that whatever. So can you see that those are tipping points? They don't change in a smooth way in a rainbow.
Yeah.
Can you see uh, that a candle flame is either lit or not lit? There's no almost lit or almost not lit.
Yeah.
Those words don't make sense. And can you see that even though you can see that stuff perfectly, the phrase tipping point doesn't have a meaning for you yet?
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
And that, Clancy, is really the perfect place for us to come to at the end of this group. Because as smart, I mean, this is not difficult to see the evidence for, but it is so difficult to accept because we've all been indoctrinated to believe that gradation, things change gradually. We can see it, we can measure it. Tom,
I was gonna say, when you asked how confused we are, it was kind of like asking how pregnant someone is.
say again?
Well, you asked how confused are we right now,
Yes,
which is like asking how pregnant someone is.
that's correct.
They're either
That
pregnant or
that
they're
is
not.
correct, Tom. And yet, it serves a purpose because Clancy tipped into, she's confused about why her brain can't keep the idea of tipping points. It's not that she can't understand it. She is clear. Her brain can't keep it. It's not of importance. It's not stunning. It's not surprising. And I had an emergence about tipping points.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like I have a lot of tipping points in my head, but they're mostly theoretical. Like before I had a thing about one of the tipping points is can the thing be measured or can't it, right? It either
Hmm.
can or can't.
Yes,
But when Steve asked for natural tipping points in the world,
Yeah.
that I go blank about like
Me too.
natural tipping points like the
That's what I'm
moon, the
saying. Yeah.
sun. I go blank about theoretically my mind floods with examples, but when he's asking for real world examples, I'm popped. I can't. All I have is the candle flame,
Yeah.
and
Me too.
it's like
Well, I had reading. Like, is that a tipping point where when someone can't read and then can read? I couldn't even think of any. Like, that's the only one I thought
okay.
of.
So first of all, if you're talking about reading words, it can't be tipped because are you saying can you assign a meaning to it? Is that the tipping point? Are you saying you can assign the correct meaning to it?
Mhm.
Are you saying you can see a new meaning in it? Is
Yeah,
there a
not even
speed
that
at
thought
which you're
out.
reading? It's like the length of your hair.
Hmm.
And so now you're asking a good question where here's this tipping point where is reading a natural thing? No, it's not. No. But if we use the word read to mean read an expression on a person's face, it becomes a different meaning. But the way you're saying reading words, the words are unnatural things. They don't occur in the world
Yeah,
naturally.
right.
Now that's a way to do it, but it's kind of like fudging the answer. It's not directly coming to the answer that you want. You can start with is the thing we're measuring naturally occurring?
Hmm.
That's
Okay.
helpful. But I can't, your hair is naturally occurring and I can't measure the length. It's a thing I can't do. I can
Yeah.
approximate it, but I can't measure it because it's not tipping point based. Somebody says you have long hair, you have short hair. Is there a tipping point? It's a
Hmm.
naturally occurring thing which doesn't have a tipping point.
Hmm. It's
So like,
hard,
yeah, height is height, all those things. Like,
Height, are you tall? Are you short?
but there's no,
right?
You
yeah,
know,
it's
like
naturally occurring, but it's not. It's not.
my favorite scene in the Knicks thing is when that guy got tripped, and then the guy reaches out his hand and trips the giant, and I'm going, yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
I
seven.
mean,
Yeah,
the
Alvarado.
guy is 7 foot 4 inches tall.
yeah.
Yeah. He's huge.
Boy, when he went down, he went down. But can we say he fell? I don't even know if I can clearly say that. Is it count if the guy, yanked his ankle? I don't know. I am trying to say, can't we just start with the few tipping points that we have in emergence and just work on that those are different than what happens in conventional science?
Man, it's such talk about it too that are one though. I mean, the conventional world literally thinks everything can be measured, and we are thinking we've got like 5 or 6 things.
Exactly, Sam.
It's really hard. Like I asked out of interest during my group, I just put in ChatGPT. I just pulled up ChatGPT and said, "Who's the best person that ever lived?" I just asked ChatGPT and it answered. I mean, it
Oh my God.
literally answered. It said, I'm not sure what your criteria would be, but if it's based on who's prevented the most suffering, it would be Norman Bullrag, this guy that created a kind of agricultural system that's to stop famine or something. I mean, it just instantly was like, and I'm like, this is literally what the world is like. Like
Norman Borad?
Norman Borlag, and yeah. Yeah, he created a high yield, disease-free resistant kind of wheat, which prevented mass starvation. He's considered the best person to ever live by
Can
ChatGPT.
can all of you
I was
feel
like, what about Jesus?
can you feel the absurdity in what Sam is saying?
Yes.
Okay, that's a start.
Yeah.
When you think about the idea that both of Jesse's parents are ones, there's no absurdity. There's a immediate some empathy, an understanding. Theoretically, it's blameless. It's not saying it's their fault. That three-letter word, one, tips, and it's just like as certain of so many qualities as we are about that. If you put your finger above the candle flame, it's the heat is going to hurt you. People don't realize that a certainty is that heat rises, at least near the surface of the earth. It's a certainty. People who do blowing, they eat fire. I learned to eat fire like 30 years ago. It's a trick. It's a fucking trick. It's so easy. Any of you could learn to do it if you can get past the fear. You get a stick, like I use a drumstick. You put some cotton on it. Put a wire around that. You dip it in lamp oil. You light it. So here's this burning fucking stick. Watch how people eat fire. Guess what? The heat rises. It's not going to burn your mouth if the heat's rising. It doesn't go out. It doesn't go down. It goes up. So a person can put it inside their mouth and it doesn't burn you. Tom,
I just had this thought. Is cause and effect the same bullshit trying to measure something that's not measurable?
yes. Is there a tipping point in cause and effect?
Not that I can tell.
It's not, please. When I'm saying bullshit, the limited case is, can this measurement be used to prove a system? And I have been challenged by specific people because of that idea. Kurt Gödel is one of those people who is one of the most important to me people to have lived in the 20th century. And he has the incompleteness theorem. Within any closed system, it will always be incomplete. Okay. But when it comes to measuring tipping point based naturally occurring things, it's complete. The whole system is not complete, but he's talking about a system of mathematics, like an addition.
Yeah, if you include everything like he tried to, then it is going to be incomplete. But
Yeah,
if you
but
just
mathematically. So
right.
he's saying in arithmetic, and people really rarely think about this, that if you subtract 0 from 1, is there an answer? No, addition is incomplete because you can't subtract 0 from anything. It's not an operation. Yet you can write it in the system. This is too much. You know, like this is what happens when your brain is like mine. Yeah. This is very, very difficult stuff, and I know, Vern, that you're learning to come out of the baby-minded shit and try to you're beginning to see, but knowing this stuff causes pain. It causes you to be alone from people you love. It causes arguments from people that are otherwise smart. It's so painful. But once you know it, you've tipped into the fucking world of something deeper than the reality that normal people have. You've tipped into it. You've not immersed yourself in it. You're not like living there. We're human. We have to live and say, well, that was the best movie I've ever seen, and have somebody go, that's not a scientific measurement. But, but, and this is ironic. Like when I was in Asheville, Anna and I saw the movie Pressure. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but it is about the idea of what day does D-Day happen. And they're close to the thing and they're all ready to do it and they want to know how the weather is going to be to cross the thing to France. And so they have two weathermen. And weather is not measurable. Except in the moment you're in, you can say it is because it's a fractal pattern. And the entire story is the pressure between two weathermen who are arguing, and it's literally true, who are arguing, and one man is arguing based on, in this area, in the past 100 years, here are the measurements, and here is the weather that occurred in the identical conditions. And the other guy is arguing without saying fractal. You can't know. You can't fucking know. And imagine the pressure. The entirety of all these armies are supposed to go at a specific time, and if the waves are above a certain height, they're all going to drown. And this is the argument in the whole movie between linear and fractal, between the conventional science and between something that made Gleek's book Chaos, the original book on this. He's saying the original thing that people figured out as fractal is weather. You
Shit,
can
man, I'm gonna stop complaining about how hard my job is after hearing that fucking job.
imagine the pressure, Sam.
That job sucks.
But here is the whole world wanting there to be a linear answer, and that's the whole point of the movie. Think about everyone who has to diagnose somebody, or they say, "Am I going to get well?" Think about Tom. Tom has to, whatever, do all these things about with people, and they say, "Well, is this medication going to make this go away?" And what the fuck do you mean go away? But you have to lie and say, "Let's wait and see." You have
I,
to escape from the linear thing.
I tell them it's fractal without saying the word fractal.
Yeah. Look at Eric. He has like some kid, an 11-year-old kid, and parents are going, is he getting better? What the fuck do you say to that? Is he getting better? He's acting out more, but he's more himself. So is that better? Fucking you tell me. This will be revisited, not in this way, again and again. And I would appreciate it if during the month that you can begin to try to come to the honest thing of Sarah saying that she can't understand, or Clancy saying, I can't keep the idea of tipping points in my head. Like, try to come to these acceptances because you can't move past it unless you can accept that you're stuck. I can't see linear things as uh, um, as the same as these measurements that we make, but I see the use in them. There is no way to forget they exist. The world believes in them. The world, like baby-minded people, want to believe that the measurement is forever. The measurement is done, concluded. I don't need to suffer anymore. So it's built into human nature to want a scientific method that satisfies the baby. And on that note, all right, all of you, thank you very much for suffering with me.
Thank
Thank
Thank you,
you.
you.
guys. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.